Chapter 1540. After the Heaven Lord displayed the power of the heavenly Tao God Eye, the Life God knew that she was no match for the Heaven Lord in a direct clash. She decided to retreat. All the members of the Life Sacred Land were currently gathered in the Sacred Lands array, adopting a defensive strategy. The mystery surrounding the heavenly Tao God I had also been partially resolved. The heavenly Tao God I was something the Heaven Lord had given himself. It was different from the other 8 great God Eyes and could not be placed alongside them. And the Heaven Lord's ultimate goal was the heavenly Tao ancestral Eye. Life God, since you're not willing to submit, only death awaits you. In front of the heavenly Tao God Eye, even gods will die. The Heaven Lord looked down at the Life Sacred Land, his tone brimming with confidence. At this moment, he had already obtained a weak sliver of the heavenly Tao ancestral Eye's power. If he couldn't even kill the Life God Eye, one of the weakest of the 8 great God Eyes, then he would be letting down this power. Once he killed the Life Dominus, it would be equivalent to taking another huge step forward in his plan. If such a powerful heavenly Tao God I could be killed and replaced, the heavenly Tao God I would obtain the power of the God I and evolve once more. As long as he succeeded in killing a God Eye, the rest would be much simpler. Slaughter the chief sovereigns? Zhao Feng's mind trembled. Anyone who could think of such a thing was a lunatic. However, Zhao Feng wasn't sure if the Heaven Lord could do it. At this moment, the Heaven Lord had the heavenly Tao God Eye. This Eye was even stronger than the Life God Eye, one of the 8 great God Eyes. Besides that, the Heaven Lord also possessed the ancient race bloodline and perhaps had other unknown methods. In short, the current Heaven Lord truly was terrifying. Otherwise, the Life God would not have retreated. Lord Hegemen, should we notify your friends? God King Radiant Peak messaged. The friends he referred to were the other God Eye deities. Previously, the Heaven Lord was at most a God King in their eyes. The Life God naturally wouldn't ask the other God Eye deities for the sake of a God King. But the situation now was different. I've already spread the news. The Life God had a gloomy expression as she stared at the distant Heaven Lord. The moment the Heaven Lord used the power of his God Eye, the Life God knew that this battle would be difficult to end. Thus, she had sought help from the heavenly punishment Hegemen and the space-time Hegemen. Attack! The Heaven Lord floated in the air like the ruler of the world as he gave his order. Down below, all the members of the heaven-defying faction were surging toward the Life Sacred Land. At this moment, even the Illusion God Tribe and the Nightmare Beast King, who hadn't completely submitted, had changed their attitudes. Boom! Bang! An overwhelming barrage of attacks descended upon the Life Sacred Land. Protect the Holy Land! The Life Sovereign barked. Buzz! The Life God I activated, pouring life energy into the Sacred Land array to strengthen its defenses. At the same time, the other experts of the Sacred Land also used their divine power to defend against the heaven-defying faction's attack. Oomph! In the sky, the Heaven Lord snorted and released an ancient energy that could shake the universe. Boom! He brandished his fists and shot out 2 balls of gold and silver divine fists. At the same time, he activated his Eye of Heavenly Tao. In a flash, the world changed, and all laws came under the Heaven Lord's control. Boom! The 2 balls of gold and silver divine fists suddenly burst into flames, releasing endless scorching radiance. A moment later, lightning crackled and blades of wind revolved around them. Immediately afterwards, the entire ball of light sank, and the impact of its tremendous force caused even the void to distort. Not good. The Life God grimaced. She was well aware of the Heaven Lord's attack. Even with her Life God Eye, she found it somewhat difficult to endure. If the Sacred Lands array was struck by these 2 attacks, it wouldn't be able to last for long. Buzz! BZZZ! The Life God immediately activated her Life God Eye, gathering vast amounts of life energy for an attack. The Heaven Lord's attack fiercely slammed into the 2 balls of dazzling green light. A moment later, the Life God's attack collapsed with a bang. But the Life God firmly controlled this life energy, forming a green mist around the Sacred Lands array. Boom! The Heaven Lord's attack descended. The Sacred Lands array fiercely swayed. Everyone in the Sacred Land felt like the world was about to topple over. Fortunately, this swaying quickly disappeared. The Life God had weakened the Heaven Lord's attack, so even though it was struck, the Sacred Lands array was able to endure. Of course, the strength of the many members of the Life Sacred Land was also indispensable. Lord God, the Sacred Lands array masters are modifying the array, discarding its offensive capabilities and increasing its defensive capabilities. God King Radiant Peak messaged, "Okay." The Life God nodded. Although the Life God I was not skilled in combat, it was extremely skilled in defense. Together with the Sacred Lands array, it was absolutely capable of withstanding the attacks of the Heaven-defying faction. The two sides were in a stalemate. The Heaven-defying faction was constantly attacking the Sacred Lands array, but the Sacred Lands members were doing their utmost to defend. This was the Life Sacred Land, and the Life God played an extremely important role here. The endless stream of life, law, energy was like a pillar that supported the Sacred Land sky. Not long after, the modification of the array is complete. God King Radiant Peak called out. Then, he selected 30 of the best experts among the Divine Masters to enter the modified formation and connect their energy with the great formation of the Holy Land. In this situation, divine power could be poured directly into the array to increase its defensive capabilities. Zhao Feng was among these people. The Heavenly Tao Ancestral Eye. Is this the Heaven Lord's goal? Zhao Feng softly muttered. It was said that when the power of the 8 great God Eyes gathered, one could summon the Supreme Ancestral Eye. But there was another legend. Everything in the world was a dream of the Brahma heavens. When the Supreme Ancestral Eye opened, this dream would shatter. He connected this to what Yu Tianwu had said about the Heaven's legacy race being an otherworldly race. Zhao Feng couldn't help but think that the Heaven Lord wanted to use the power of the Heavenly Tao Ancestral Eye to leave this place. But the price might be that the entire fan universe would shatter and everything would be turned to dust. Although this was only a legend, and there was no way to confirm its veracity, it was at least a possibility. Or perhaps some other unknown danger might occur. Buzz. BZZ. The Sacred Lands array became sturdier, and its defensive capabilities greatly increased. Meanwhile, the Heaven-defying faction continued to attack. After all, even the most perfect defense would have flaws. Even such a powerful array would run out of energy. Moreover, the Heaven's legacy race was no pushover. They had great destruction weapons that could deal incredible damage. Several members of the Heaven's legacy race were also studying and refining arrays to find a way to break them. This turtle shell will shatter sooner or later. When the time comes, all of you will die. Outside the Sacred Land, the Heaven Lord's roars echoed through the world. Boom! Boom! The Heaven Lord activated his ancient race bloodline and punched again and again. At the same time, he used the Heavenly Tao God Eye to strengthen his attacks to unimaginable levels. Boom! Bang! Crash! The Sacred Lands array was constantly swaying. The two sides were in a stalemate for 3 days. Meanwhile, the Sacred Lands array was gradually weakening under the endless bombardment of the Heaven-defying faction. The array is damaged. An array master sorrowfully sighed. There might have been a mistake in modifying the Sacred Lands array. The few array masters blamed themselves greatly. All the members of the Sacred Land could sense that the defensive capabilities of the array were gradually weakening. The dreadful power of the Heaven Lord was deeply imprinted into their minds. At this moment, many of them found it hard to calm down, and some of them even had stunned expressions and fear in their eyes. The Heaven Lord's target is me. If the Sacred Land is broken, all of you should run for your lives. The Life God called out, at the same time releasing an amiable life energy. In a flash, the Sacred Land's depressed mood was greatly relieved. The members of the Sacred Land gradually relaxed under the comfort of this life energy. Your Excellency, God King Radiant Peak worriedly said. Relax. Everything will be fine. The life god's expression was indifferent. She was not skilled in battle and was no match for the Heaven Lord in a head-on clash. But this did not mean that she would be killed. Boom, bang, crash. The entire sacred land fiercely shook. The heaven-defying faction also sensed the weakening of the array and launched a fierce assault. Life-draining. The life god's eyes turned, and a wave of life energy descended outside the sacred land. In a flash, the members of the heaven-defying faction began to lose their vitality, and their faces began to age. Moreover, this draining vitality quickly condensed into a seed that began to sprout and grow. Kaboom! In the blink of an eye, thick thorny vines began to madly dance through the air, stealing away all life. The life god's sudden burst of power immediately threw the heaven-defying faction members outside the sacred land into disarray. Dying! The Heaven Lord's face chilled as he activated his heavenly Tao God Eye, sending a gray-white mist downward. The boundless energy of death on the battlefield was instantly mobilized. Boom! This death energy immediately descended upon the thorny vines. Life and death tangled together, and in the end, both dissipated. Life God, accept your fate. Once I obtain your God Eye origin, I will also take the energy of the other God Eye deities. The Heaven Lord angrily roared, and an astonishing intent soared into the sky and swept through the area. Buzz. BZE. The Heaven Lord activated his ancient race bloodline, and a head of gold and silver light began to form in his hands. This head exuded an ancient energy that could shake the heavens. Shatter! The Heaven Lord thrust his palms forward, and the gold and silver head descended. The heavenly Tao God Eye activated, and the head began to blaze with flames, growing a head of flaming hair. A moment later, the head's eyes began to crackle with lightning. Following that, a thick layer of rock appeared on the surface of its head. Its sinister mouth began to emit intense death law power. Everyone in the sacred land stared at this sight, their minds trembling in fear. What a powerful attack! He's gradually gaining control over the heavenly Tao God Eye. The life god's mind trembled. The Heaven Lord's attack contained the power of both the ancient race and the heavenly Tao God Eye. It was so powerful that not even the life god dared to block it. But suddenly, the life god sensed a familiar energy, and the weight on her heart was lifted. Kaboom! The god devil head descended with unstoppable momentum, about to strike the sacred land's array. At this moment, the space in front of the sacred land's array suddenly tore open, creating a massive black hole. Kaboom! The mighty god devil head entered the black hole, and the space around it closed. A moment later, an amiable elder appeared above the sacred land. He was shrouded in layers of spatial blurs, appearing mysterious and unfathomable. At the same time, broom, the sky in the distance suddenly exploded. Space was torn apart, the earth shattered, and the world was thrown into chaos. Space-time, thank goodness you arrived. The life god breathed a sigh of relief. Just now, the space-time god had used his supreme space-time god power to move the Heaven Lord's attack to another part of the world. This is the heavenly Tao God you spoke of. The space-time god stared at the vertical eye of the Heaven Lord, his expression grim. Chapter 1541. The sudden arrival of the space-time god had easily resolved the life sacred land's crisis. Everyone in the sacred land breathed a sigh of relief, hope reigniting in their hearts. The life god was not skilled in battle, but the space-time god was different. How could the Heaven Lord not lose when the two worked together? From a moment he provoked the God Eye, he was destined to lose. God King Radiant Peak's face lit up as he coldly snorted. However, he had to admit that the Heaven Lord was truly incredible to be able to force the life god and the life sacred land into this state. The Heaven Lord's face was gloomy, and a terrifying energy began to gather around him, causing space to freeze. If the life god hadn't been hiding in the sacred land's array, he was very confident that he could have killed the life god Eye in these 3 days. But now, the space-time god had arrived, and the two gods working together was rather troublesome. This isn't some heavenly Tao god, The life god told the space-time god what the Heaven Lord had said. The heavenly Tao god, I was just a title the Heaven Lord had given himself. The Heaven Lords, I might be even stronger than a god possessing a sliver of the heavenly Tao's power. The Heaven Lord's current goal was to kill the 8 great god obtain their god origins, and create the heavenly Tao ancestral eye. Then let me experience a power even stronger than a god deity's. The space-time god's expression was cold. His brows raised in interest in the Heaven Lord's eye. The god deity truly was rather lonely. It had been a long time since he had encountered an opponent stronger than him. Moreover, the life god was here. No matter how ridiculous the Heaven Lord's eye was, they would not lose. Thus, the space-time god wanted to fight with the Heaven Lord's heavenly Tao god eye. As you wish. The Heaven Lord's eyes flashed with cold light. With the heavenly Tao god eye and the ancient race bloodline, he had nothing to fear. One had to realize that the ancient race of the ancient era was an existence that reigned supreme over the 10,000 races and was no weaker than a god eye. Although the Heaven Lord could not compare to the ancient race experts of that era, he was not that much weaker. The Heaven Lord had barely finished speaking when an extremely long beam of light swept past his face, causing blood to spurt out. He dodged it. The space-time god raised an eyebrow. The space-time god's attack completely ignored all of the light. But the Heaven Lord still managed to dodge. Only his face was cut, but this was useless against the god-devil body, and the wound quickly healed. The Heaven Lord has been injured. In the Holy Land, many people's eyes flickered with excitement. This was the first time the Heaven Lord had been injured after using the heavenly Tao god eye. Below, Zhao Feng was also watching the battle. If the Life Sovereign wasn't skilled in combat, then the Space-Time Sovereign was definitely skilled in combat. Thump! Thump! Zhao Feng's left eye began to thump even faster, apparently because another god had appeared in this place. Zhao Feng realized that he was using more and more of the god eye's power in this battle. All of this had been stimulated by the life god eye and the heavenly Tao god eye, and now the space-time god had arrived. I wonder how many god eyes I'll be able to see this time. Zhao Feng was also looking forward to it. If the dream god came into contact with one of the 8 great god eyes, it would be able to further awaken and display even greater power. Boom! Bang! Crash! The sky was in chaos. Space had long ago been torn out of shape, and terrifying spatial storms were blowing everywhere. Anyone below the Godlord level would be torn to shreds if they approached. But in this environment, the space-time god and the Heaven Lord were completely unaffected and fiercely battled. Gravity! The eye at the center of the Heaven Lord's forehead stared into space, exuding a murky gray light. Every time the eye rotated, a part of the void would be crushed by a powerful gravitational force. As for the space-time god, he only left behind spatial ripples as he weaved through space, dodging the Heaven Lord's instant fire eye bloodline techniques. Only the space-time god can dodge even instant fire eye bloodline techniques. Zhao Feng was stunned. Moreover, in this chaotic environment, the space-time god was completely unaffected, using a spatial movement technique. He truly lived up to his reputation as the space-time god. The space-time god was fast, but the Heaven Lord was not slow. The Heaven Lord moved as he pleased in this dimension, unaffected by anything. It was like he didn't even exist in this dimension. Kaboom! Under the Heaven Lord's control, lightning and fire crisscrossed the world, making it easy for him to grasp any kind of energy. But the space-time god weaved through these endless attacks, dodging them all. Ancient divine fist. The Heaven Lord's eyes exploded with harsh light as he pulled back his hand and punched. With the buff of the heavenly Tao god eye, this divine fist became incredibly powerful. It pierced through the world. A pitch-black path of chaos was left in the world. Everything on it had been destroyed. Swish! The space-time God appeared behind the Heaven Lord and spoke in a low and indifferent voice. "You can't hurt me." A space-time energy immediately surrounded the Heaven Lord, and the space-time God's body vanished. Swish, swish. Countless space-time energies continued to slice at the Heaven Lord, engulfing him. If it had been an ordinary divine master, that terrifying cutting power and speed would have instantly sliced him into countless pieces. If you can't deal with the speed of space-time, it will be very difficult to defeat him. The life god chuckled, intoxicating everyone. The Heaven Lord howled in pain from within the space-time slash. All of a sudden, a terrifying power burst out from within. Boom! The countless space-time lines that were slicing back and forth instantly broke apart. The Heaven Lord's body was covered in countless wounds, but they all healed in an instant. The God-fiend body is indeed difficult to deal with. The space-time god's eyes darkened, his eyes flashing with dark silver light as he gathered up vast amounts of space-time energy to deal the Heaven Lord a heavy blow. Shio! The space-time god vanished once more, rapidly approaching the Heaven Lord. Reverse. The Heaven Lord activated the heavenly Tao God eye on his forehead and roared. Instantly, the space within 1,000,000 miles shook violently. A moment later, the space-time god flew in the opposite direction of the Heaven Lord. What's going on? The space-time sovereign's heart sank. He was sure that his direction hadn't changed. It's this move again, reversing time and space and affecting the order of the world. The life dominus was shocked. This time, as a bystander, she understood the principle behind this move. Just now, the Heaven Lord's heavenly Tao God, I had caused the entire dimension to reverse. It was like East had suddenly switched with West. The space-time god's direction hadn't changed, but the world had. Ooish. The space-time god changed direction and once more approached the Heaven Lord. He dodged the Heaven Lord's attacks and suddenly approached him, his eyes surging with space-time energy that could pierce through all. In this world, I am the only God. The Heaven Lord activated his heavenly Tao God eye and roared, unleashing a power that caused space itself to tremble. The space-time god sensed that something was wrong and immediately fled. You still want to run this time? The Heaven Lord gave a strange chuckle. Whoosh! The space-time god was retreating, but he suddenly realized that he was getting closer and closer to the Heaven Lord. Not good. He reversed the entire world again. The space-time god's expression darkened as he cursed at this absurd ability. Gravity! A dreadful gravity descended. This time, the space-time god did not dodge. Oh no! The life god called out in alarm. The space-time god felt like 100,000 mountains were pressing down on his body. At this moment, he sensed danger. Time freeze. The space-time god called out as he activated his space-time god eye. The surrounding space-time began to slow down and freeze. Break! The Heaven Lord roared. However, just as this power was born, an even more domineering power directly shattered it. At the same time, a flame appeared on the space-time god's body. Ooish! The space-time god activated his space-time god eye, transforming into an invisible streak of silver light that vanished from the world. When the space-time god reappeared, his body was covered in roaring flames, lightning, and snow. As it turned out, he had been struck by the Heaven Lord's instantaneous attack before he could escape. Space-time energy surged out, diverting the space-time god's attack. Cough, cough. The space-time god paled and coughed. He was not like the life god, who could not be killed no matter what and possessed unparalleled recovery abilities. At this moment, the life god walked up to the space-time god, placed her hand on his back, and released a pure and amiable life energy. Gradually, the space-time god's injuries healed, and his complexion returned to normal. Let's work together and put an end to all this. The life god gently said. Okay. The space-time god nodded. It had been a very long time since he had been injured, but the Heaven Lord had just heavily injured him. At this moment, he recognized just how terrifying the heavenly Tao God I was and did not dare to be careless. Two God eyes working together? I'll finish off both of you. The Heaven Lord chuckled, not afraid in the slightest. With the ancient God-Devil body, his survivability was on par with the Life God I, and the Heavenly Tao God I gave him unparalleled control and offensive power. He feared nothing. At this moment, a majestic voice that shook the heavens resounded, creating a powerful sound wave. Your Heavenly Tao God I is the eye of sin. You will be severely punished. In a flash of lightning, a majestic middle-aged man emerged. The divine punishment god, God King Radiant Peak, called out in alarm. The other members of the sacred land all revealed respectful expressions. At this moment, 3 gods had descended, causing space to twist and distort. Those below the God Lord level didn't even dare to leave the array. 3 god-eye deities have arrived. Xian Wuhing's face was filled with excitement as he lamented. That's not all. Zhao Feng muttered to himself. His dream god, I sensed that there was another god-eye nearby. Swish! On the ground far away, there was a hunchbacked old man wearing a tattered robe. This person was none other than the divine punishment god's mortal enemy, the death god. That scoundrel of the Heaven's legacy race actually managed to create such an incredible eye? The death god muttered in shock. He had also seen the Heaven Lord injure the space-time god. If it were him, he would have found it very difficult to block the Heaven Lord attack. The death god closed his eyes and activated his god eye. After a long while, he sent a message. You too. Hurry over. Chapter 1542. At this moment, life, space-time, and divine punishment god, deities all arrived at the life-sacred land. On the other side, the Heaven Lord's face was gloomy, his invisible rage shaking the world. I didn't think that god-eye deities would use numbers to bully others. The Heaven Lord raised his head, his face furious as he roared. The 3 god-eye deities felt rather uncomfortable at these words, but in a one-on-one fight, they were no match for the Heaven Lord. In addition, the Life God could tell that the Heaven Lord was still trying to figure out the abilities of the Heavenly Tao God I. The Heavenly Tao God I was different from the 8 great God Eyes. It was not its limit and still had the possibility of evolving, so he could not afford to be careless. His expression didn't change at all as he looked at the 3 hegemons. The Heaven Lord immediately shouted, "Retreat." No matter how confident he was, there was no way he could face 3 hegemons at the same time. The heaven-defying faction immediately began to move. The current situation was truly disadvantageous to them. Do it. The space-time god had long since grown impatient. He had to take revenge for what had just happened. Shio! Space-time law rippled in the air as several hundred beams of light shot toward the Heaven Lord. The Heaven Lord calmly activated his Heavenly Tao God Eye, creating a wall of ice around him that blocked the space-time god's attack. We can't let him leave like this. The Life Sovereign immediately acted as well. The Heaven Lord was already so powerful that he could suppress a god-eye deity. If they allowed him to safely leave, there was no telling what he would do next, which would make them even more difficult to deal with. Moreover, when the time came, the Heaven Lord would most likely target the Life God Eye, who was not skilled in combat. If I want to leave, none of you can stop me. The Heaven Lord gave a mocking smile. At this moment, rumble. The dark world immediately lit up, and lightning flashed above everyone's heads. Under this divine punishment's power, everyone instinctively felt fear and did not dare to face it directly. Time imprisonment. The space-time god used his eye of space-time to control space-time. The space around the Heaven Lord shattered, forming an impassable space-time wall that sealed the Heaven Lord within. Life drain. The Life God activated her Life God Eye, unleashing a green beam of light that pierced through the space-time wall and plundered the Heaven Lord's vitality. At the same time, the boundless heavenly punishment descended from the sky. When the 3 sovereigns attacked at the same time, it could be said to be a killing move. Boom! Bang! This terrifying storm caused the ground to tremble and collapse, and it swept out for millions of kilometers, turning everything into ruins. The other members of both sides also moved away, not daring to approach. Break! At the center of the explosion, The Heaven Lord roared, unleashing a power that could shatter all laws and order. Instantly, the space-time barrier shattered, and the power of life, plunder disappeared. The power of heavenly punishment was also repelled. In the sky, the Heaven Lord's body was somewhat haggard and damaged. The three gods chilled. The Heaven Lord had even been able to break through their most powerful attacks. Life. The Heaven Lord chuckled, his heavenly Tao God, turning the surrounding laws into life energy and preparing to absorb them. Dream on? The life god was shocked. She hadn't expected for the Heaven Lord to be able to change the other laws into the life law. But she was the god of life. She immediately activated her life god, and seized this life energy. Although the heavenly Tao God, was powerful, it was no match for the life god in the domain of life. Immemorial godly fist. The Heaven Lord was instantly enraged. He activated his ancient god-devil body and gathered up vast amounts of energy before punching. With the buff of the heavenly Tao God the power of this punch rose steadily. Even the three gods were intimidated by it and forced to retreat. Life's sacred land, hear my order. Attack the heaven-defying faction and destroy everything. The life god ordered all the members of the sacred land. Attack the heaven-defying faction. God King Radiant Peak immediately stepped forward and commanded everyone to attack the heaven-defying faction. The arrival of the three gods made all the spectating experts confident that the life sacred land would emerge victorious. More and more people accepted the life sacred land's request for reinforcements and volunteered. The sacred land was now no weaker than the heaven-defying faction. In a flash, a dense mass of people dodged the storm created by the God-Lord battle and charged toward the heaven-defying faction. As for the heaven-defying faction's side, they quickly retreated. 3 massive warships carried many people back. Defend. The left protector took command. Where there was life, there was hope. As long as they could safely retreat, the next time the heaven-defying faction appeared, they would be unstoppable and invincible. Curse of the Dead. The left protector squeezed out a drop of black-violet blood from his finger, and then he formed a spell, unleashing a sinister energy that made one shiver in fear. Countless vengeful souls and wraiths suddenly appeared in the air. Almost all of these were experts who had died in the battle. The left protector had used their negative soul energy to form the Curse of the Dead and attack the life sacred land. Life-devouring tree. God King Radiant Peak activated his Eye of Life, gathering large amounts of life energy into his bloodline secret art. Green light flashed toward the heaven-defying faction, gradually condensing into an ancient gray tree. This gray tree unleashed an invisible devouring energy, and the nearby members of the heaven-defying faction immediately felt their vitality rapidly drain away as their condition deteriorated. As the gray tree devoured the lives of the heaven-defying faction members, it gradually grew larger and more solid. The wish. Zhao Feng gripped the primal chaos tribulation lightning sword and charged into the battlefield, sweeping through all. Run! It's the 9th god, Zhao Feng. The God Lord saw Zhao Feng charge in, and fear appeared on their faces. Although the battle of gods had drawn the most attention, Zhao Feng's killing of the divine emissaries, including the strongest divine emissary Wu, and his clash with the Nightmare Beast King, had left a deep impression on the minds of the others. But none of the prey Zhao Feng had set his sights on could escape. Thump thump. Zhao Feng's 9th god, began to rhythmically tremble. The battle of gods had not only stimulated the dream god but also Zhao Feng himself. Kill! Zhao Feng gripped the primal chaos tribulation lightning sword as he charged into the enemy ranks and began to slaughter them. At this moment, Zhao Feng noticed that the spiritual race patriarch and Zhao Yufei had been pushed back by a powerful destruction dragon race energy. Divine emissary. Zhao Feng's eyes focused as he charged at a black-scaled man. Brother Feng. Zhao Yufei's eyes flashed. Before the battle, Zhao Feng had placed a god mark on Zhao Yufei, and helped her escape danger many times. "It's Zhao Feng." The black-scaled man grimaced and immediately retreated. Primal Chaos Lightning Eye. Without another word, Zhao Feng activated his Dream God Eye, condensed a Primal Chaos Lightning Sword, and fired it. Crack! The black-scaled man's head exploded. The devouring Primal Chaos Energy and Tribulation Lightning Energy wreaking havoc on his head. "Ah!" The black-scaled man screamed as he fled, clutching his head. Fortunately, he had the Destruction Dragon race bloodline, or else he might not have been able to take this attack. "Where do you think you're going?" Zhao Feng immediately pursued, his speed much faster than before. During the battle between the Space-Time God and the Heaven Lord, Zhao Feng had been keeping a close eye on the Space-Time God. After all, Zhao Feng primarily cultivated space and secondarily cultivated time. Zhao Feng had comprehended a great deal from the Space-Time God's spatial movement art and was able to improve his own movement techniques. Destruction Dragon Flame. The black-scaled man saw that Zhao Feng was too fast for him to escape, so he used his Destruction Origin Energy to unleash a destructive attack. A blazing sun of black flames shot toward Zhao Feng. After unleashing this attack, the black-scaled man immediately began to retreat. Swish! Zhao Feng gathered large amounts of Primal Chaos Energy and Tribulation Lightning Energy, causing the Primal Chaos Tribulation Lightning Sword in his hand to multiply in size, transforming into a towering sword that shot forward. The black sun of destruction instantly collapsed, bringing along the destructive black flames that swept out in all directions. Although the Primal Chaos Tribulation Lightning Sword that had shattered the black sun had consumed a significant amount of destruction flame, the gloomy Tribulation Lightning Sword continued to fly forward. "He's this strong." The black-scaled man's mind trembled. As a divine emissary, did he not even have a chance of escaping from Zhao Feng's hands? Boom! Bang! Although he managed to dodge the Primal Chaos Tribulation Lightning Sword, the sword suddenly exploded, unleashing a massive explosion of chaos energy. The black-scaled man flew out of the explosion, vomiting several mouthfuls of black blood. "It's over." A deep voice rang out in the black-scaled man's ear. At some point, Zhao Feng had appeared behind him. Crack! The Primal Chaos Tribulation Lightning Sword pierced through his chest, engulfing him in destruction and devouring energy. A few moments later, the black-scaled man was reduced to dust. Zhao Feng was now able to kill divine emissaries as he pleased. In the distance, the Death God was both watching the battle of gods in the sky and the battle between the life-sacred land and the heaven-defying faction. "Is he the real ninth God Eye?" The Death God indifferently glanced at Zhao Feng. "But it seems like he's on divine punishment's side. Since that's the case, he can't be left alive." A sinister look appeared on the Death God's face, and a bloodthirsty smile appeared on his face. If Zhao Feng was allowed to fully mature, the Divine Punishment God would have the advantage in terms of God Eyes, and he did not want to lower his head to Divine Punishment. Boom! Bang! Crash! The battle of gods continued. The immense energy radiating from them made it impossible for anyone to get close, and no one dared to see what was going on. The battle of the sacred land did not stop, and it only grew more chaotic. But gradually, the heaven-defying faction gathered together, and the members of the Heaven's Legacy race on the three warships began to form one massive Heaven's Legacy array after another. These Heaven's Legacy array wove together and formed a massive defensive array. "Prepare to open the passage and return to the Divine Kingdom," the Left Protector ordered. But on the other side, God King Radiant Peak led his experts in a fierce assault. The entire Heaven's Legacy race array began to tremble and sway. "Don't stop. We can't let them enter the Divine Kingdom." God King Radiant Peak looked into the distance and bellowed. If the heaven-defying faction was allowed to return to the Divine Kingdom, it would be even more difficult to deal with them. But they have many tricks up their sleeves and the power of the Divine Kingdom. We might not be able to stop them. Master Limitless' eyes were profound as he sighed. This Divine Kingdom is truly tough. For a moment, the life's sacred land was in an awkward situation. Once the heaven-defying faction returned to the divine kingdom, they wouldn't be able to attack even if they wanted to. The interior of the divine kingdom isn't necessarily completely safe. Zhao Feng stood there for a long time, his eyes flashing as he muttered to himself. He had almost forgotten that he had entered the light race's divine kingdom. As long as it was a place he had been to, Zhao Feng could use thought teleportation to travel there without any hindrance. However, recklessly infiltrating the divine kingdom was rather dangerous, so he needed to make some preparations. Chapter 1543. Within the heaven-defying faction divine kingdom, the members of the heaven-defying faction were standing guard within the heaven's legacy defensive array. Moreover, this defensive array was reinforced by the divine kingdom's power, making it extremely tough. Even the combined attacks of the life, sacred land, and the other allied forces were unable to break it. Boom! Bang! Crash! The life, sacred land's forces continued to fiercely attack. Even if they couldn't completely break through the defensive array, they still had to hold it down. The heaven-defying faction could not instantly enter the divine kingdom. Once they lost a certain number of people, the defensive array would lose its power and be instantly broken. In the rear, Zhao Feng did not attack the heaven-defying faction divine kingdom with the others. At this time, he planned to use thought teleportation to infiltrate the heaven-defying faction divine kingdom. It would be best if he could destroy the important structures or core of the divine kingdom, so that the heaven-defying faction's plan to retreat and leave would fail. But this plan could not be announced, not even a God King Radiant Peak. If the life-sacred land had spies in the heaven-defying faction and the news leaked out, Zhao Feng would be a sheep walking into a tiger's den if he ran into the enemy divine kingdom. Zhao Feng took his clones, the Black Destruction Dragon, the ancient beasts, and a little thieving cat into his divine kingdom. This operation was rather risky, so Zhao Feng planned to rely on his own forces. He didn't even tell the light race's Twilight Valley or the giant god race's Xian Wuhan. In the chaos of the crowd, Zhao Feng suddenly left. As he retreated to the rear, he entered his divine kingdom. Within the divine kingdom, Zhao Feng safely used thought teleportation to vanish. The life sacred land, which was attacking the heaven-defying faction with all its might, did not notice him. However, after a while, they might notice that Zhao Feng had disappeared. But there was still someone who noticed Zhao Feng's sudden disappearance. The death god, who was hiding extremely far away. Where did that kid go? The death god's eyes flashed. Why did Zhao Feng suddenly disappear at this time? However, the death god was alone and couldn't do much. At the very least, he had to wait for his allies to arrive. Although the Heaven Lord was a threat to all the god eyes, divine punishment and the others were enough to deal with him. Perhaps both sides would end up heavily injured while he and his allies could reap the benefits and obtain the final victory. Within the heaven-defying faction divine kingdom, Wang Hu, in a sealed secret room, layers of dreamy shadows suddenly appeared, and a silver-haired man in a silver robe slowly appeared. "We're here." Zhao Feng opened his eyes and observed his surroundings. This was the place where he had been imprisoned in the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom. This secret chamber was a place of imprisonment, and it was surrounded by a formation barrier completely isolated from the outside world. With Zhao Feng's current strength, he could naturally force his way through, but that would definitely draw the attention of the heaven-defying faction. Don't alarm them. Zhao Feng's left eye pierced through the spatial barrier and memorized the scene outside. He closed his eyes and used mental teleportation again. Not long after, Zhao Feng's figure disappeared from the secret room and appeared outside the barrier. Just like that, Zhao Feng easily left this sealed space. Even so, he did not act recklessly. The interior of the Heaven's Legacy race was riddled with traps. Anyone who did not understand how to move about would definitely trigger them. At this time, it was the little thieving cat's turn. This was also the reason why Zhao Feng had brought the little thieving cat along. Meow. The little thieving cat was carried out by Zhao Feng and led the way. They silently dispelled or evaded all the traps along the way. It didn't take long before Zhao Feng walked out of the massive building. He concealed himself in the void and observed the situation inside the heaven-defying faction. Many members of the heaven-defying faction were flying back and forth between the three mountains, appearing rather busy. They probably don't have very tight defenses around their divine kingdom. They probably wouldn't have imagined that someone would be able to sneak in without them noticing. Zhao Feng chuckled as he stealthily moved through the air. Those with lower cultivations were unable to sense Zhao Feng's presence, and those with higher cultivations were actively avoided by Zhao Feng. After taking such a huge risk to come here, I'd be letting myself down if I didn't get some benefits. Zhao Feng glanced at the Heaven's Legacy Race island to his left. If he remembered correctly, the majority of this island was a region where precious plants were grown, and there was no lack of extremely precious plant from the ancient era. Moreover, Zhao Feng urgently wanted to increase his strength. If he could make a small harvest here, that would naturally be for the best. With this plan in mind, Zhao Feng headed toward the Heaven's Legacy Race island to his left. Comparatively speaking, there were fewer people on this island zone, so Zhao Feng managed to arrive without any mishaps. With the little thieving cat leading the way, Zhao Feng entered an entrance. After advancing for a short while, the man and cat arrived in a vast space. In front of them was an extremely wide path of steel, and on the two sides of the path were individual spaces. Each of these spaces simulated different environments and grew different kinds of rare plants. Perhaps because of the battle, other than the guards at the entrance, there were only a few logistics personnel. They tended to the plants in the various areas, and their cultivations were generally rather low. As Zhao Feng stealthily approached, all the personnel fell into a dream. He then began to wander through the massive building. The plants in the first few areas were rather low level in Zhao Feng's eyes, so he simply ignored them. After walking several hundred steps, Zhao Feng suddenly stopped. Jade Snow, Origin Fruit, Profound Ice Heaven Spirit Grass. Zhao Feng's eyes pierced through the translucent spatial barrier to see the plants within. The precious materials in this space were all related to the Ice Dao. Among them, the Jade Snow Essence Fruit and the Profound Ice Heaven Spirit Grass were excellent tonics for Ice Dao cultivators. They could nourish, repair God altars, condense God power, and stabilize one's cultivation. These plants were all of extremely high quality, corresponding to the first heaven to the second heaven. As for the space on the right, it was filled with cultivation resources for the Flame Dao. Zhao Feng resisted the temptation and continued to walk forward until he was almost at the top. Time Dao and Space Dao plants. Zhao Feng's eyes twinkled. There weren't many plants for these two Daos, but their rarity and preciousness far surpassed the former. Just to be safe, Zhao Feng still planned on using thought teleportation to enter. Swish! Zhao Feng's figure disappeared in a layer of dreamy mist, but he suddenly appeared in another space. Good, flowing light, moon spirit fruit, white moon flower. Zhao Feng had a joyful expression as he looked at the plants in this space, even though the majority of them hadn't fully matured yet. Meow meow. The little thieving cat also jumped out and cheered. Under the search of the human and cat, there wasn't a single plant left in this space. Zhao Feng then came to the other side, where spatial plants were being grown. This was a starry space with many stones floating in the air, and some plants were growing on them. In this small floating island at the center of the starry space, Zhao Feng saw a dark silver slender tree. The space around it was wrinkled. I didn't think that there would be a space spirit tree here. Zhao Feng rubbed his palms together as he approached. In this space, the space spirit tree was probably one of the most precious plants. Its trunk itself was extremely precious and could be used to repair spatial supreme quality divine artifacts. It was also one of the materials used to forge all kinds of divine weapons. The heaven void silver leaves on the space spirit tree were even more precious treasures for cultivating the space law. Without another word, Zhao Feng took them away. The man and cat then began to scour the other places for plants. However, just as the two of them were plundering to their heart's content, a commotion suddenly came from outside. Oh no! Zhao Feng grimaced and immediately took the little thieving cat into hiding. 5 figures walked out of the passage. Damn it, we'll definitely be discovered. Zhao Feng's expression turned grave. He hadn't expected that someone would come while they were stealing. Of the 5, 2 wore silver armor and had first heaven cultivation. The other 3 wore gray robes and had cultivations below the God Lord level. Hurry and check everything. If there's nothing wrong, then let's go. The 2 silver-armored men urged, but the 5 didn't go very far before they froze in place. Oh no! Hurry and see if any of the plants have been stolen. The 5 grimaced and immediately said, in this situation, they did not think that there was an intruder. Instead, they suspected that it was an inside job. The other 3 personnel on duty came to the front of each individual space, where there was an individual instrument. By activating the instrument, one could see what was going on inside the cultivation ground. Oh no, the time-type plants have all disappeared. One of the guards immediately called out. How audacious! Someone dares to take advantage of the chaos of battle to steal. A dark-skinned, silver-armored man hardened his expression. Hurry and report this matter to the elder. The other silver-armored man suddenly said. At this moment, hurry and see what the situation is with the treasures in the level 2 secret chambers. One of the officers on duty had an anxious expression on his face as he urged. If the treasures in the level 2 secret chambers were lost, even if they were not responsible, they would still find it difficult to escape this calamity. The 2 silver-armored men were also stunned when they heard this. Within the space-type plant cultivation ground, Zhao Feng's eyes widened. There's more inside, and it sounded like the things inside were even more precious. The 3 guards and the 2 silver-armored men arrived at the end of the passage. The 3 guards unleashed their Heaven's Secrets secret technique, and a silver line suddenly appeared on the wall. It gradually extended to form a square metal door that slowly opened. The structure inside was similar to the outside, but the space was more stable and powerful. The 5 immediately entered and arrived next to a cultivation ground. Through the mechanism, they could see what was going on inside. Good, they're all here. Go and see what's going on. One of the older guards immediately heaved a sigh of relief. The 2 silver-armored men also took out their communication tokens and prepared to send a message. Right at this moment, a figure appeared behind the 5, but they did not notice it at all. Zhao Feng's left eye emitted a wave of dream Dao energy that silently invaded the 5 souls. The 5's bodies swayed, and their eyes glazed over as they fell into the dream dimension. Thank you for leading the way. Zhao Feng smiled faintly. He did not expect there to be something even more precious here. Chapter 1544. After dealing with the 5 guards, Zhao Feng began to inspect the higher-level plants. Each cultivation area was its own dimension. The dimensions here were much smaller than the ones outside, but there were more of them. There are more of these higher-level plants. Zhao Feng felt that this was impossible. He took a few steps forward and saw the image on one of the machines. It was gloomy and shrouded in endless black fog. The ground was covered in white bones, and in the middle of these bones was a strange flower covered in black and white patterns. Death Spirit Bone-Eating Flower. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed. He had seen this plant in the secret library of the Heaven's Legacy race. It was a treasure that the Heaven-defying faction had developed. This plant could only grow on corpses thick with death energy, but when experts died, their bodies would be destroyed, leaving nothing behind. Thus, the environment could only be artificially created, and it could be considered one of the more successful products of the Heaven-defying faction. Zhao Feng clearly had no lack of this plant, so he immediately went to the next dimension. At this moment, Zhao Feng understood why there were more of these higher-level cultivation areas. Each cultivation area only had one kind of plant or even just one stalk, but it was of an abnormally high quality. For example, the Death Spirit Bone-Eating Flower could probably raise an extremely powerful death god I descendant. This is 9 Lightning Heaven Bamboo. Zhao Feng's left eye pierced through the spatial barrier and saw the treasure in the second cultivation area. The ground was pitted and scorched black, and the sky was roiling with black clouds as the power of divine punishment continued to rumble down. In the center of this dimension were several translucent white bamboos covered in lightning. These were none other than 9 lightning heaven bamboo. According to the records, the place where 9 lightning heaven bamboo grew was the sky lightning forbidden land. Normal people would find it impossible to approach. But for lightning Tao cultivators, a place with 9 lightning heaven bamboo was a cultivation paradise. This treasure was born from lightning and condensed the essence of the world's lightning. Not only could it be used to comprehend the lightning law, but it could also increase a cultivator's ability to comprehend the lightning law. Moreover, the 9 lightning heaven bamboo, the heaven-defying faction, was growing while nourished by divine punishment energy, so it was probably of an extremely high quality. Without hesitation, Zhao Feng used mind teleportation and entered the interior. Suddenly, a small portion of the heavenly punishment in the sky bombarded Zhao Feng. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Zhao Feng released a powerful lightning energy that revolved around his body, blocking it. He had even personally witnessed the power of the divine punishment chief sovereign's heavenly retribution. How could he possibly fear this bit of heavenly retribution? As he got closer, the bombardment of the heavenly punishment that Zhao Feng suffered became more and more intense. The power of the heavenly punishment was undeniable. Even if Zhao Feng defended with all his might, it would still be difficult. Return. Zhao Feng approached the 9 lightning heavenly bamboo and stored it in his divine nation. Rumble. Suddenly, the power of heavenly punishment in the sky came crashing down on Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng immediately fled to the edge of the area to escape from the bombardment of the heavenly punishment. Finally, he used mind teleportation to leave. This 9 thunder heavenly bamboo's grade is extraordinary. It will greatly promote my law of thunder. Zhao Feng was very satisfied, but now he needed to pick up the pace. His actions here would be discovered sooner or later, and it would be terrible if his enemies took the initiative. Thus, Zhao Feng decided to take a few more treasures and then leave. After all, he had infiltrated the heaven-defying faction and had other missions. After some investigation, Zhao Feng discovered that the first 8 cultivation areas corresponded to the attributes of the 8 great god eyes. This was also rather reasonable. The heaven-defying faction naturally did not produce so many powerful god eye descendants out of thin air. They had to pay an enormous price to cultivate resources so that they could eventually become experts. Zhao Feng arrived at the area corresponding to the space-time resources. This was a tranquil space. Many stones of various sizes floated in the air, all of them gleaming with a white luster like precious jade. In the center of these precious jade was an abnormally dazzling round crystal that exuded a glow like moonlight. Void profound spirit jade. Zhao Feng was shocked. He hadn't expected it to be such an extinct treasure. Void profound spirit jade could only form in certain forbidden cracks or streams of space after the shattering of the desolate continent. It would take countless years before it could slowly take form. This was also why many spatial cultivators like to drift through space. If one was lucky, they might be able to find a treasure like this. Without another word, Zhao Feng used thought teleportation to enter. Space-time energy immediately descended, causing Zhao Feng's thoughts and movements to become abnormally slow. Zhao Feng immediately released the power of his space-time law to resist. Otherwise, he would be as slow as a snail. In truth, if Zhao Feng just destroyed this dimension, he would be able to obtain the treasure without going through so much trouble. But doing so would expose him. Based on the situation, I'll have to leave after taking this treasure, Zhao Feng mentally calculated. At the same time, outside the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom, the battle between gods was still going on, and the more it fought, the more terrifying it became. This part of the dimension was in tatters, and, if not for the heaven-mending race experts, it would have taken hundreds of millions of years to repair. The space-time, divine punishment, and life gods all grimaced. And this was when 3 gods were working together. Any other god would be in grave danger, But although the Heaven Lord was injured, it was not very serious. Space-time crack. The space-time god's eyes flashed with silver light as he scanned the area. Hissus. A dreadful space-time crack suddenly appeared in the distance, the space-time energy within it capable of pulverizing all things. This space-time crack moved with incredible speed in pursuit of the Heaven Lord. Divine Punishment Hammer. The Divine Punishment God also activated his eyes, using his eye intent to control the boundless divine punishment in the sky to form a terrifying divine punishment hammer. The life god controlled countless thorny vines to cut off the Heaven Lord's path of retreat. The Heaven Lord was surrounded by the attacks of the three gods and was now in a difficult situation. Break! The Heaven Lord activated his heavenly Tao God Eye, unleashing a power that could destroy all laws and order, pulverizing everything around him. This power again. The life god's heart sank in shock. After fighting with the Heaven Lord for so long, they had some understanding of his techniques. The most puzzling of them all was the power the Heaven Lord had used just now. It could instantly destroy all laws and order around him. This meant that at this moment, no power could injure the Heaven Lord. Of course, such a powerful technique had a rather long time between uses and consumed a great deal of energy. Whoosh! The Heaven Lord took a deep breath as he stared at the three gods, his eyes cold and harsh. If he only had the heavenly Tao God Eye and not the God Devil body, he would have been defeated long ago. If you want to hate someone, hate yourself. All of this is the result of your sins. The Divine Punishment God's expression was cold. The Heaven Lord glanced at the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. Boom! Bang! Crash! The life-sacred land continued to fiercely assault the heaven-defying faction's defensive array. As more and more experts joined the life-sacred land, it became extremely powerful, making it difficult for the heaven-defying faction members to escape into the Divine Kingdom. But if this stalemate continued, the heaven-defying faction would definitely lose. Next time, the Heaven Lord scanned the three gods before turning and retreating toward the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. Want to leave? The space-time god snorted as he stepped forward to stop him. Ancient Divine Fist. The Heaven Lord immediately activated his ancient God Devil body and unleashed a tyrannical punch that forced the space-time god to retreat. The shift in the Battle of Gods had also attracted the attention of the other members of both sides. God King Radiant Peak, who was attacking the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom, saw the Heaven Lord flying over, and his legs trembled. Retreat! God King Radiant Peak hastily called out. The fact that the Heaven Lord could survive the combined attacks of three gods was already proof of his strength. The Heaven Lord feared nothing except a god. At this moment, the Heaven Lord punched at the life-sacred land members. Retreat! The members of the life-sacred land panicked and fled for their lives. But the Heaven Lord's attack was simply too fast, arriving almost instantly. Space-time shift. In the end, the space-time god took action, creating a spatial black hole that diverted the Heaven Lord's attack. The Heaven Lord used this chance to open a path to the Divine Kingdom. In a flash, all the Heaven's Legacy race members swarmed inside. Don't even think about it. The Divine Punishment God's expression hardened as he unleashed a barrage of lightning. Bang! The Heaven Lord punched out with both fists to protect the heaven-defying faction members. In the end, all the other members entered the Divine Kingdom. Wait for me to cut open his Divine Kingdom. The space-time god coldly snorted. Swish, swish, swish. The three gods descended at the same time, unleashing their most powerful attacks. If the Heaven Lord was allowed to leave, the three gods would have no face left. Moreover, how could they let such a powerful threat go? Reverse. The Heaven Lord immediately reversed the world and fled with his massive Divine Kingdom. At this time, he had to guard the Divine Kingdom. There truly weren't many things in the world that could stop the three gods, especially the space-time god, who could easily deal massive damage to the Divine Kingdom. But the Heaven Lord was still unable to hold on against the combined attacks of three gods. Activate the heaven-defying divine kingdom's defensive array. The Heaven Lord sent a message into the divine kingdom. Within the divine kingdom, in an underground palace in the central island zone, a 70-year-old elder with a gray-white staff in his hand and a white beard that trailed along the ground said, "Activate the divine kingdom's defensive array." Yes, right, protector. Around the palace, there were huge machines and many people operating them. Activate the divine kingdom's defensive array. A series of mechanical commands were constantly being issued. At the same time, in the herb-growing base on the left island zone, got it. Zhao Feng smiled, a round piece of jade in his hand, the void profound spirit jade. Now that he had obtained it, Zhao Feng no longer lusted after the treasures and planned to leave. The moment he arrived at the passage, Zhao Feng's left eye saw countless people returning to the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. So many people! Zhao Feng grimaced. The members of the heaven-defying faction had all returned to the Divine Kingdom. Once his identity was exposed, he would be surrounded and attacked by the entire heaven-defying faction. But upon closer inspection, Zhao Feng realized that this was not the case. The members that had returned to the Divine Kingdom were gathering on the distant horizon, apparently laying down some sort of array. It seems like the war isn't over yet, Zhao Feng quietly said to himself. He then used the heavenly closure seal to seal his energy, including that of the God Eye, and changed his appearance before concealing himself. Zhao Feng had not forgotten his goal in infiltrating the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. He wanted to destroy the important structures and even the core of the Divine Kingdom, so that the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom's defenses would be greatly reduced. This way, the life-sacred land would be able to smoothly attack. After leaving this island zone, Zhao Feng began to approach the Central Heaven's Legacy Island. Zhao Feng realized that the heaven-defying faction had no intention of guarding against intruders. Perhaps in their view, it was impossible for anyone to invade without them noticing. Zhao Feng encountered no danger along the way. The core of the Divine Kingdom might be there. Zhao Feng's gaze turned toward the forbidden ground in the distance. He had been sure of this the last time he was captured. Chapter 1545. The core of the Divine Kingdom might be over there. Zhao Feng's gaze turned toward the forbidden ground in the distance. He had been sure of this the last time he was captured. At this time, Zhao Feng had changed into a suit of silver armor and was now a guard of the heaven-defying faction. Now that all the members of the Heaven's Legacy race had returned, the chances of him being discovered had greatly increased. Thus, Zhao Feng decided to disguise himself. As long as it wasn't a god king looking carefully, they would find it very difficult to notice anything amiss. As for the members of the heaven-defying faction, they had never imagined that there would be an intruder, so they were less guarded. Coupled with the fact that this was a time of chaos and chaos, almost no god king would pay close attention to a single guard like Zhao Feng. But approaching the core was a different story. There was no one around the forbidden ground. If Zhao Feng approached, he would be far too conspicuous and attract attention. Thus, Zhao Feng remained near the forbidden ground to think of a solution. At this moment, Hissus, within the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom, an enormous array of white crystals had been constructed. This array glimmered with brilliant light as vast amounts of energy began to circulate. Many white rays of light extended from the array, connecting it to the Divine Kingdom. Within and around the array, there were many experts controlling key positions of the array. In order to stop the attacks of the three gods, the defensive capabilities of the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom were far from enough. An energy transmission array was needed, using the members of the heaven-defying faction as a source of energy. In the distance, three golden-armored men were making their way toward the forbidden ground. "You come here." One of the pale-faced men pointed at a silver-armored guard in the distance and casually called out. "Yes." The silver-armored guard was shocked and immediately stepped forward. The standard for a golden-armored guard was second heaven, the highest of the guards. He only obeyed the upper echelon of the heaven-defying faction, so he had to obey the golden armored guard's orders. "Guard the forbidden ground with us," one of the golden armored guards immediately said. Hearing those words, the silver armored guard's expression immediately changed. The people nearby also trembled slightly and immediately left. Everyone knew that the forbidden ground was the core of the divine kingdom, and now that the divine kingdom's defensive array was activated, the core was certain to erupt with an immense energy that ordinary god lords would not be able to endure. At this crucial moment, all of you are afraid of death. "You, get over here." The golden-armored, white-faced man had a look of disdain on his face. He then looked at a slow, silver-armored guard and immediately shouted, "Yes." This slow-moving guard was Zhao Feng. He pretended to be unwilling and slowly flew over. Then, the three golden-armored guards pulled some more people over and quickly approached the forbidden area. At this moment, the forbidden area was already fluctuating with a frightening power. Even with the isolation of the formation, the powerful aura could still be felt from the outside. To prevent any accidents of the core will of the divine kingdom, the Pale of God of Clans Divine, the God, the kingdom. The pale-faced guard said righteously. Usually, the forbidden area was empty because there were many traps here. However, this was a critical period. If something happened to the core area, it had to be repaired immediately, so they needed to send people to stand guard. In reality, it would definitely be safer to send a third heaven or even a god king. However, they were short on manpower at the moment, so they could only send a few low-level godmasters. Kingdom, dragon. Explosions rang out from the core of the forbidden ground as the terrifying energy continued to climb. Outside the array, the silver-armored guards circulated their divine power to form barriers around them. Suddenly, an explosion came from within, followed by a terrifying ripple of divine power. The layers of arrays began to rumble and groan. The distant array in the sky exploded with divine power that connected and fused with the divine kingdom. With this, the heaven-defying faction's strongest divine kingdom array was complete. Not even a god would be able to break the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom in a short amount of time. In the core of the forbidden ground, the array was brimming with terrifying energy. Although it did not leak out, it still made the guards outside tremble in fear. Once the defensive array is broken, this terrifying energy will be enough to kill a first heaven god lord. Even second heaven will be forced to retreat. Zhao Feng's lips curled into a smile as he examined the core of the forbidden ground. Driving his will, Zhang Xian executed the realization ability. This was thought power. As long as it wasn't too difficult, he could use it even without using his dream origin energy. Zhao Feng's left eye glanced at the array behind him. Suddenly, an incomparably tiny hole appeared on the barrier. Kaboom! Immediately, a terrifying surge of divine power surged out from within. Moreover, spiderweb cracks appeared around this hole and began to spread. None of the people present had expected for something like this to happen so soon. Boom! Bang! A dark gray storm surged forward. The divine power barrier of the silver-armored guard closest to the hole shattered, and his body was instantly turned to ash by the dreadful energy. At this moment, Zhao Feng used this chance to enter the array. Boom! Bang! The other silver-armored guards were sent flying. Not good. There's a hole in the array. Several of the golden-armored guards retreated in alarm and unleashed vast amounts of divine power to resist the impact. At the same time, the activity here alarmed the other people in the divine kingdom. In the underground core, what's going on? The Right Protector immediately called out. The Forbidden Grounds array has been damaged. An operator immediately reported. Only members of the Heaven's Legacy race could repair the array, but the majority of Heaven's Legacy race members had rather low cultivations. However, the Right Protector had managed to find someone suitable for this task. This person was none other than Yu Ping. He quickly arrived at the Divine Kingdom's core. Elder Yu. The nearby guards respectfully bowed. Did any of you notice anyone suspicious just now? Yu Liuping's gaze was profound as he questioned them one by one. No, this was the answer he received. There were 8 people guarding the forbidden ground. 2 of them were too close to the hole in the array and were killed in the line of duty. The white-faced man reported. Yu Liuping nodded, not thinking too much about it. The moment a hole appeared in the array, it would erupt with the most energy. Caught off guard, a first heaven god, Lord, truly would be powerless to resist. He inspected the interior of the array and found nothing strange, so he began to repair the array. The forbidden ground in the core had 3 layers of arrays. The outermost layer was the isolation defense barrier, and the inner 2 layers were the weakening barrier. The power that passed through these 2 layers would be weakened to a certain extent. Just now, Zhao Feng had entered the 2nd layer of the array and used his realization ability to repair it. The 2nd floor was brimming with such terrifying energy that even a 2nd heaven god lord would be instantly annihilated. As a peak 2nd heaven, Zhao Feng naturally had nothing to fear and entered the depths of the 2nd layer. At this moment, the 3rd layer of the array was brimming with energy that not even a 3rd heaven would be able to last a single second. Not even a god managed to break in. This divine kingdom's core is definitely unusual. Zhao Feng was considering whether he should enter the 3rd layer or not. At this moment, a powerful ripple of energy approached Zhao Feng. "Kid, who are you?" An indistinct soul voice came from within. Startled, Zhao Feng focused his eyes and saw an ethereal robe floating within the storm of divine power. This robe was surrounded by layers of spatial barriers that prevented it from being affected. This is... Zhao Feng was taken aback. It was actually this robe that had spoken just now. He activated his left eye to get a clearer view of the array. This robe was as white as jade, and its mysterious silver inscriptions glimmered with a dazzling light. Moreover, there was a 4th array in the center. "Kid, you're quite bold to dare infiltrate this place." The robe spoke once more. "Ancestral artifact?" Zhao Feng probed. How could an ordinary divine artifact be able to remain safe in there? The robe was at a loss for words. In its complete form, it had been an ancestral artifact, but now it was no longer an ancestral artifact, but a pseudo-ancestral artifact forged from many fragments. But for it to say such a thing, it would only be belittling itself. Seeing that the robe did not admit to it, Zhao Feng guessed that it was a pseudo-ancestral artifact. After all, he had seen the pseudo-ancestral artifact blazing hell before. "Kid, you're not a member of the Heaven's legacy race, but you dare to come here? You truly don't know the meaning of death." The robe exuded a chilling aura, clearly intending to denounce Zhao Feng. "Do you want to consider leaving this place with me?" Zhao Feng faintly smiled as he suddenly spoke. His goal this time was to destroy the divine kingdom's crucial structure, perhaps even its core. And at this moment, he had discovered a pseudo-ancestral artifact in the core. It appeared that this pseudo-ancestral artifact was currently exuding a powerful energy that was of great use to the divine kingdom's defenses. If he could abduct it and sell it, wouldn't he have achieved his goal? Moreover, Zhao Feng was rather confident. The innermost 4th array contained many different types of ancestral artifact fragments. They were probably supporting the operation of the core array and providing it with different kinds of energy. However, there was a spatial energy outside this array that blocked off vision and perception. It was clearly the robe's doing. Otherwise, Zhao Feng would not have been mistaken at the start to believe that there were only 3 arrays. This meant that the robe still had hope for the intruder, and it also wanted to leave. "Kid, with just you?" The robe angrily bellowed. Outside, the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. The Heaven Lord was fleeing with the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. But the pursuers had the space-time god eye, which boosted the speed of the other 2 gods as they pursued the Heaven Lord. Lightning crisscrossed, space-time was cut apart, and thorns crisscrossed. The 3 gods attacked at the same time. Boom! Bang! Crash! The Heaven Lord consumed a great deal of his eye bloodline energy, so he used both his divine kingdom and his own energy to resist. What a tough divine kingdom! The space-time god curled her lips. Don't be careless. They're behind us. The life god warned. 10 million li behind them. 3 silhouettes were flying at high speed. One of them had a stooped body and was dressed in tattered black clothes. The other was an elder dressed in a luxurious golden robe. His eyes were even more dazzling than the sun. The last was a beautiful woman in a dark purple dress, her body exuding an oppressive aura. Chapter 1546. In the core of the divine kingdom, Zhao Feng and the crystalline robe were separated only by a single domain. Kid, just you. The robe angrily harumphed. Firstly, it was rather dissatisfied with Zhao Feng's tone. The first question had left it speechless, and the second was that a pseudo-ancestral artifact had to follow Zhao Feng. Secondly, it did not believe that Zhao Feng had a way to leave this place. You also want to leave this place, right? If you miss this chance, you'll have to stay here forever. Zhao Feng chuckled, seemingly unconcerned. There was a fourth array in the innermost layer. Many different ancestral artifact fragments had formed a complex Heaven's Legacy array. But when the crystalline robe noticed Zhao Feng's arrival, it had cut off the senses of these ancestral artifact fragments. So Zhao Feng's first inspection had led him to believe that there were only 3 arrays. The crystalline robe had done this because it had a sliver of hope for the intruder. It wanted to leave and didn't want Zhao Feng's identity to be immediately exposed. Kid, you're just a peak second heaven. I don't know how you managed to sneak in, but leaving is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The crystalline robe solemnly said. Although it wanted to escape the control of the Heaven's Legacy race, it would not act blindly. If it chose to leave with Zhao Feng but failed and was captured by the Heaven's Legacy race, the consequences would be even worse. Moreover, even if it successfully left, a faction as powerful as the Heaven-defying faction would find it very difficult to deal with a mere second heaven like Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng fell silent for a few moments, until the crystalline robe followed him. He could not reveal the secret of thought teleportation. Who knew if this pseudo-ancestral artifact would report him to the Heaven-defying faction once it learned of his identity? The Heaven-defying faction is currently at war with 3 god-eye deities, and the Heaven-defying faction is extremely busy. Leaving isn't difficult, and I'm a member of the god-eye camp. Zhao Feng calmly said. 3 god-eyes. The crystalline robe was rather surprised. It had also sensed the war, but it hadn't expected the other side to be 3 god-eyes. However, it had some understanding of the Heaven-defying faction strength, so it was only a little surprised. In addition, it had assumed from the start that Zhao Feng was a member of the Heaven-defying faction who had taken advantage of the chaos of battle to sneak in and steal the treasures. He didn't expect Zhao Feng to be an outsider. For a peak second heaven to be able to infiltrate the Heaven's Legacy race divine kingdom and reach the core forbidden zone was truly not simple. Then I'll tell you one more thing. As long as I leave this formation, the Heaven-defying faction will sense it. Do you think it's possible to take me away now? The voice of the crystalline robe was deep. This was the most crucial point. Otherwise, with its own strength, it could easily break through the 3 layers of the formation. Yes. Zhao Feng's expression was calm, but he was extremely serious. This answer stunned the crystal jade robe for a moment. Of course, it was still doubtful. Think about it carefully. I don't have much time. I reckon that they will notice me very soon. After Zhao Feng calmly said this, he directly entered the Dream Divine Kingdom. In the core of the Dream Divine Kingdom, 1 day of cultivation was equivalent to 400 days in the outside world. Zhao Feng used this time to stabilize his cultivation so that he could break into the 3rd heaven. On the central island, in the underground base, the Right Protector was observing the situation outside through the massive screen in front of him. The 3 god eyes are in hot pursuit. In this situation, even if the Heaven Lord takes out his trump cards, it won't be of much use. The Right Protector's white brows were tightly furrowed. At this moment, a message came, reporting to the Protector the herb-growing area has been stolen, including the Level 2 secret room. This news caused the Right Protector's eyes to widen in shock. Someone had managed to steal the precious resources the heaven-defying faction had painstakingly cultivated without them noticing. The core area? The Right Protector suddenly thought of something. The defensive barrier around the core area had suddenly shattered. Although this matter was sudden, it wasn't very strange. But when combined with the theft of the herb-growing area, things were different. A layer of frost gradually appeared on his face, and his body stiffened on the spot. "I'm leaving for a moment." The Right Protector immediately gave the order, and his figure disappeared. Just who was it? The Right Protector began to hurry toward the forbidden ground. Right Protector! Many guards immediately bowed to greet him. No one had expected the Right Protector to personally come here. Was he here to reprimand them for their mistake just now? Everyone was fearful and didn't know what would happen next. But the Protector said nothing. Instead, he began to form a spell, apparently preparing to open the array. In the core of the forbidden ground, within the second layer of the array, a spatial ripple startled Zhao Feng out of his divine kingdom. "Kid, I agree." A hurried voice came from within the crystalline robe. Zhao Feng immediately rushed out. A moment later, he understood why the pseudo-ancestral artifact was in such a rush. "Okay, since you plan to come with me, we'll first destroy the divine kingdom's core." Zhao Feng immediately ordered. The three god eyes were currently attacking the divine kingdom. Once the divine kingdom's defenses were affected, the three gods would be able to easily break through. "Kid, you're not using me, are you?" The crystalline robe immediately bellowed. It had alarmed Zhao Feng and said this because it had sensed the arrival of a god king. It was clear that this god king had noticed that Zhao Feng had infiltrated the divine kingdom. It wanted to see if Zhao Feng could take it out of this place and what tricks Zhao Feng had up his sleeve. But Zhao Feng didn't seem to be in a rush, and he even had it destroy the divine kingdom's core first. "Okay, kid, I'll believe you this once." The crystalline robe was helpless against Zhao Feng. Moreover, Zhao Feng had been here for so long, and it had not notified the heaven-defying faction. This was already a form of not reporting what was going on. Swish! The crystalline robe flew to the fourth layer of the array and used the power of the space law to interfere with the array. The defensive systems of the heaven-defying faction divine kingdom immediately fell into disarray, and the defensive array began to sway. "I can only interfere with it." The crystalline robe bellowed, unleashing a powerful space law that shot toward the third layer of the array in a streak of light. This array was not an isolation array, so the crystalline robe was able to pass through it rather easily. At this moment, outside the second layer of the array, the Right Protector was enraged. "You dare to betray the heaven-defying faction?" The Right Protector referred to as naturally the pseudo-ancestral artifact and Zhao Feng. On the surface, Zhao Feng was still dressed as a guard of the heaven-defying faction. The Right Protector did not believe that an outsider could infiltrate the heaven-defying faction and steal the precious resources they had painstakingly nurtured without them noticing. "Kid, do you have any ideas?" The crystalline robe was clearly fearful. No rush. Zhao Feng was unhurried. If the pseudo-ancestral artifact had agreed earlier, Zhao Feng might have used thought teleportation to take him away. But it was too late now. Moreover, Zhao Feng had matured a great deal. He was no longer the same as he was in the past, when he was still unable to contend against the Purgatory's sacred land's god, King Charflame, even when working together. Zhao Feng had even killed the strongest divine emissary. So what if it was a god king? With the help of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, Zhao Feng would be like a tiger that had grown wings. Bzzz. In a flash of light, his disguise faded, revealing his true appearance. "Zhao Feng, it's you?" The Right Protector stared in disbelief at Zhao Feng's face. The ninth god eye that they had been pursuing had managed to sneak into the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom, steal many precious resources, and even attempt to destroy the divine kingdom's core. The Right Protector felt like his heart had been stabbed by something, and it was extremely uncomfortable. The will within the crystalline robe was also rather surprised. This kid seemed to be very famous. But when it asked Zhao Feng if he had any ideas, Zhao Feng had said, "No rush." This made the Will Protector want to curse out loud. He was just a peak second heaven, and his opponent was a god king. Moreover, this was the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom. He was in no rush. Bang! Zhao Feng immediately undid the seal on the ninth god, Eye, and began to circulate his law energy and unleash his divine power. Vast amounts of primal chaos energy surged out and began to wreak havoc in the forbidden core. Zhao Feng stopped. The Right Protector immediately called out, his eyes activating and releasing a gloomy mist. The pseudo-ancestral artifact had already greatly disrupted the core, and the Divine Kingdom's defenses were currently at their weakest. If they fought here, the core would definitely be further affected. Boom! Bang! Crash! At this moment, the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom began to shake. Zhao Feng had created such a good opportunity for the three god eyes, so they would naturally use it to attack. Suddenly, a gap appeared in the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom. Due to the destruction of the divine kingdom, the formation inside was also affected. Everyone inside the formation coughed up a mouthful of blood. At the same time, in the divine kingdom's core, the fourth layer of the array had been shattered, unleashing a dreadful forbidden storm. "Let's get out!" Zhao Feng immediately called out. The pseudo-ancestral artifact had no choice but to sweep up Zhao Feng and flee. No! How could this be? The Right Protector's face was filled with hatred. Wish. The Right Protector immediately pursued the pseudo-ancestral artifact and Zhao Feng. At the same time, outside the Divine Kingdom, what's going on? The Heaven Lord's face was dark and ruthless. What had happened inside the Divine Kingdom? Why had the defensive array suddenly become so unstable, weakening its defenses and allowing the space-time god to punch a hole in it? Moreover, he could no longer bring the Divine Kingdom with him. The power of God was far too terrifying. Entering the Divine Kingdom through that hole would result in a catastrophic disaster. Boom! The Heaven Lord thrust out a palm, sending the Divine Kingdom flying for millions of li. The interior of the Divine Kingdom was thrown into chaos. Zhao Feng's Right Protector had just charged out of the Forbidden Core. "Zhao Feng, I'll kill you." The Right Protector's face was sinister and ruthless, his left eye unleashing a dense fog. Many black figures emerged from within, all of them samsara immortal bodies. Their leader was a god king. In addition, there were 2 third heaven god lords, and there were even more second and first heaven god lords. "You must be the person who revived divine emissary Chong." Zhao Feng had this guess when he saw the Right Protector's eye of samsara. The Right Protector was not skilled in battle, so he was responsible for controlling the interior of the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom and reviving certain members. Kill. At this moment, the Life Sacred Lands army appeared at the hole in the Divine Kingdom. The heaven-defying faction members had to deal with external enemies. "Look, can we escape now?" Zhao Feng smiled faintly. In this situation, even if their identities were exposed, they wouldn't be surrounded and attacked by the entire heaven-defying faction. "Are you blind? You're facing a god king." The crystalline robe snorted. Even so, the situation was much better than what I had imagined. Everything just now had been far too dangerous. If the 3 god eyes had not broken into the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom in time, they would have been finished. So what if it's a god king? Zhao Feng smiled. At this moment, he wanted to test out this Right Protector. Chapter 1547. Within the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom, the 3 god eyes faced off against the Heaven Lord. "It's over. Die." The divine punishment god's expression was indifferent, his tone cold. "Haha, even if the heaven-defying faction is doomed, you can't kill me." The Heaven Lord savagely smiled. As long as he didn't die, it wouldn't end. Whoosh! The Heavenly Master waved his hand, and a golden saber appeared in his hand. It was covered in ancient runes and exuded an astonishing aura. It was like a peerless expert, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. Xiao Chun activated it slightly, and the golden light on it flickered, piercing through the world. Everything in the vicinity was instantly pierced through and turned to dust. Perfect law of metal. The life sovereign was slightly startled. Those who possessed perfected laws were typically godly monarchs, but this weapon possessed such powerful laws. Coupled with the ancient aura it exuded and the shocking battle intent in its attack, it proved that it was definitely not ordinary. This was an ancestral artifact. Ancestral artifact, Xing Tian. The divine punishment He Jimin recognized this ancestral artifact. Ancestral artifact Xing Tian was the ancestral artifact of the divine martial clan during the primeval era. I didn't expect you to have such a trump card. The space-time sovereign was secretly alarmed. In the immemorial era, there was an unprecedented war between gods and devils. Countless experts died, and even true ancestral items were destroyed. Those that survived were few and far between. The Heaven Lord possessed such a powerful ancestral artifact, but he had not taken it out at the start. From this, one could see just how patient he was. This was because if he revealed an ancestral artifact, it would definitely attract the attention of other god kings, and even hegemons. Even if there was no enmity between them, they would still covet the ancestral artifact and try to steal it. But at this critical moment, the Heaven Lord couldn't worry about such things and took out the ancestral artifact, Xing Tian, within the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom. A wave of metal laws pierced through, and the members of both sides fighting within the divine kingdom felt a stabbing pain in their divine bodies and souls. And this was still within the divine kingdom. If they were outside, who knew what would happen? Has the Lord of Heaven already used that trump card? The Right Guardian's expression darkened. It seems that the heaven-defying faction has reached a dead end. Zhao Feng gave a faint smile. You guys kill him. The Right Protector gave the order and left the place. Right now, he didn't have the time to deal with Zhao Feng. He needed to move his divine kingdom and leave the battlefield. In addition, the heaven-defying faction was in a dangerous situation, so they needed to make other plans. Therefore, he could only control the heavenly kingdom and the samsara immortal body to kill Zhao Feng. A mere level 2 peak actually wants me to take action. A blue-haired old man exuding a piercingly cold aura was slightly interested in Zhao Feng. The blue-haired old man was the God King's samsara immortal body. Beside him were 2/3 heavenly layer samsara immortal bodies and many first and second heavenly layer samsara immortal bodies. Come out! Zhao Feng opened the passage to his god kingdom and released all of his subordinates and avatars. Against so many people, Zhao Feng naturally would not be careless. Moreover, they were in the middle of a great war, and this was the perfect opportunity to exterminate the heaven-defying faction. Swish, 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 figure after figure leapt out of the divine kingdom passage. There were even more of them than the Right Protector's samsara immortal bodies. Of course, Zhao Feng's subordinates were inferior to the samsara immortal bodies in terms of cultivation. Oh, kid, you have so many helpers. The crystalline robe's tone softened a little. In a previous situation against so many experts, Zhao Feng would undoubtedly die, and it would once again be controlled by the heaven-defying faction. But now that Zhao Feng had called out so many helpers, there was a chance that he could escape. Junior Dot, the blue-haired old man roared. An astonishing snowstorm erupted from his body, immediately plunging the surroundings into a world of ice and snow. Kid, run! The crystalline robe immediately shouted. It was only a divine weapon. Without anyone controlling it, it could not contend against a God King expert. And Zhao Feng was only at the peak second heavenly layer and had not obtained its recognition. Even if he refined it, he would not be able to use much of the pseudo-ancestral artifact's power. Why run? Fight! Zhao Feng bellowed, releasing vast primal chaos energy as he charged forward. What? The crystalline robe was extremely shocked. It had thought that Zhao Feng had sent his subordinates to buy time for them to escape, but it turned out that Zhao Feng was preparing for a direct battle. Primal Chaos Domain. Zhao Feng released vast primal chaos energy, forming a dark, and chaotic primal chaos domain. Because his opponent was a god king, Zhao Feng had shrunk the size of the primal chaos domain to strengthen himself. Otherwise, a god king could easily break through the primal chaos domain. Die! The blue-haired old man waved his hand, sending a giant snowstorm descending. At this moment, Zhao Feng felt like a mountain of ice was crashing down, its momentum shaking the heavens. A powerful law of ice affected the world. Even with Zhao Feng's primal chaos energy, Zhao Feng was greatly affected. Die! Zhao Feng gripped the primal chaos ancestral artifact fragment, condensed a massive primal chaos tribulation lightning sword, and slashed. Last time, he had been powerless to stop the Purgatory's sacred land's god King Charflame. But after cultivating under the guidance of the divine punishment god, his strength had undergone a massive transformation. Facing a god king again, Zhao Feng did not feel much pressure. Boom! Bang! The primal chaos tribulation lightning sword fiercely clashed with the snowstorm, sending shockwaves of energy to both sides. Zhao Feng's hands trembled as he felt a bone-chilling cold. As expected, he's not simple. The blue-haired elder gave a mocking smile, not minding it. Zhao Feng's attack just now had been extremely powerful, enough to contend against him. However, the difference in cultivation was too great. His perfected ice law gave him an enormous advantage. Is the difference in laws too great? Zhao Feng had also noticed this. Even though he had a space-time law and a lightning law, he was still at a disadvantage against a perfected ice law. At this moment, "Kid, I'll lend you a hand." The crystalline robe transformed into a dark silver light that wrapped around Zhao Feng's body. It had been prepared to escape alone, but Zhao Feng's strength had caused it to view him in a different light. Moreover, it also deeply resented the heaven-defying faction. If it could deal a heavy blow to the heaven-defying faction, it would be extremely willing. Thus, it decided to help Zhao Feng. A perfected space law immediately emerged. Although it was not very stable, it was truly a perfected law. Because Zhao Feng had not refined this pseudo-ancestral artifact, he could only borrow an extremely small portion of the robe's law energy. This was more than enough for Zhao Feng. Okay. Zhao Feng rejoiced as he once more stared at the God King's samsara, immortal body. Pseudo-ancestral artifact. The blue-haired elder's eyes flashed with cold light. Not even he had a pseudo-ancestral artifact when he was alive, but now a peak second heaven god lord was able to obtain the favor of a pseudo-ancestral artifact. The right protector, through the vision of his samsara, immortal body, had a complete understanding of the battle. He dispatched a third heaven god lord to join the blue-haired elder in dealing with Zhao Feng. Go! Zhao Feng called out. The black destruction dragon, his clones, the little thieving cat, and the powerful ancient beasts of the dream divine kingdom all entered the fray. Ice-extinguishing god slash. The blue-haired elder unleashed a bone-chilling cold that shot toward Zhao Feng. With a wave of his hand, ice energy condensed into a crystalline slash of light that slashed down. Bzzee. Zhao Feng borrowed a sliver of his perfected space law from the crystalline robe and swung the primal chaos tribulation lightning sword. The gigantic lightning sword light slash instantly rushed out and slashed at the ice crystal light slash. Bang! The two energies shattered, and the ice law was smoothly blocked by Zhao Feng's law. This time, Zhao Feng and the blue-haired elder were evenly matched. At this moment, a third heaven immortal body in the rear launched a sneak attack on Zhao Feng. Broom! An astonishing giant axe of thunder and lightning charged at him in an instant. Hey, relax. I'm a defensive-type pseudo-ancestral artifact. The crystalline robe wrapped around Zhao Feng chuckled. Although Zhao Feng couldn't use much of its power, the defensive capabilities of the pseudo-ancestral artifact were still extremely outstanding. Zhao Feng nodded and used his primal chaos domain to obstruct and restrict this lightning energy. In the end, the crystalline robe easily blocked the rest of the lightning attack, leaving Zhao Feng completely unharmed. Primal Chaos Lightning Eye. As he blocked this attack, Zhao Feng attacked, his left eye forming a tribulation lightning sword seal. Cackrack. A wave of primal chaos tribulation lightning energy suddenly exploded on the blue-haired elder's body, leaving behind a large hole. Although the blue-haired elder was a samsara, immortal body, and had an undying body, his soul was still suffering from severe pain. Seeking death, the blue-haired elder was enraged. He waved his palms again and again, creating mountains of ice that crushed down on Zhao Feng. Boom! Bang! Crash! The primal chaos tribulation lightning sword swiftly slashed out, shattering several mountains of ice. But an endless storm of ice mixed with enormous chunks of ice continued to explode. Primal chaos lightning vortex. Zhao Feng used the energy of the primal chaos domain to form the primal chaos lightning vortex. Boom! Bang! Crash! The storm of ice and snow bombarded the primal chaos lightning vortex, damaging it in just a few moments. However, the interior of the primal chaos lightning vortex was the defensive layer of the pseudo-ancestral artifact. Brat, not bad. I acknowledge your strength. The crystalline robe heartily laughed. Though-ish. Zhao Feng charged forward, his primal chaos tribulation lightning sword clashing with the blue-haired elder. With a sliver of the pseudo-ancestral artifact's perfected space law, Zhao Feng's speed had doubled, allowing him to dodge some of the more powerful attacks. Adding on the pseudo-ancestral artifact and defensive techniques, his defenses were not too big of a problem. As for the third heaven's samsara immortal body, Zhao Feng completely ignored it. Samsara immortal bodies were definitely more difficult to deal with than true humans because they were undying, but without their original bloodline, their overall strength was slightly weaker than when they were alive. The blue-haired elder howled. The pseudo-ancestral artifact was one of the reasons he couldn't do anything to this second heaven brat, but he had to admit that Zhao Feng was extremely strong. Boom! Bang! Crash! Zhao Feng and the blue-haired elder exchanged several hundred blows, but neither side had the upper hand. But if one looked closely, the blue-haired elder was indeed injured more. As Zhao Feng's primal chaos lightning, I could not be dodged. However, the blue-haired elder was a samsara immortal body, and his body was undying and indestructible. Zhao Feng had never thought of killing a god king. Without the help of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, he would have to use all his trump cards to have a chance of contending with a god king. Although he couldn't do anything to the blue-haired elder, as a peak second heaven expert, it was a great humiliation for a god king to be able to injure a god king. Chapter 1548. Within the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom, the fires of war raged. The members of the life-sacred land had long ago invaded the interior of the Divine Kingdom, and the heaven-defying faction was gradually forced into a defensive position. Because this was the heaven-defying faction's territory, there were many Heaven's legacy arrays, war weapons, and traps. The heaven-defying faction still had the ability to resist. Boom! Bang! In the center of the heaven-defying faction, Zhao Feng and his subordinates were engaged in a fierce battle with the Right Protector's samsara immortal body. The blue-haired old man roared again and again. As he waved his palms, a snowstorm swept through the world. However, with the protection of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, as long as Zhao Feng was not injured by the blue-haired elder's lethal attack, he would be fine. Chaos Lightning Eyes. Zhao Feng activated his left eye, gathering primal chaos energy and tribulation lightning energy. Boom! A thunder tribulation sword seal exploded on the blue-haired old man's body, creating a huge hole. As a samsara immortal body, the blue-haired old man's injuries healed rapidly. However, his soul was injured. However, as a God King powerhouse, the blue-haired old man's soul was extremely powerful. If it had been an ordinary third firmament cultivator, they would have been severely injured if not killed by Zhao Feng's chaotic lightning eyes. Thousand Ice Seal. The blue-haired old man's expression was sinister and ruthless. Even if he died and became a samsara mortal body, he would not be able to endure the humiliation of being repeatedly injured by a level 2 expert. Wang Hu. The space around Zhao Feng suddenly became cold. The ice and snow storm in the air suddenly froze and gathered towards the center. As for Zhao Feng, he sensed that the temperature was dropping. Even with the protection of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, he still felt a bone-chilling cold. It seemed that the blue-haired old man had already given it his all. The boundless ice gathered around Zhao Feng, as if it wanted to bury him forever. Dream projection. The dream origin in Zhao Feng's left eye surged with a dazzling luster. In an instant, he created a dream and merged it with the surrounding space. Under the influence of dream force, Zhao Feng's abilities were multiplied in all aspects. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A powerful thunder tribulation energy was released, fusing with the primal chaos domain around him. With a thought, the energy of the entire primal chaos domain surged, clashing with the surrounding ice. Of course, this wasn't enough to block the blue-haired old man's all-out attack. Zhao Feng clenched his hand, and several chaos lightning tribulation swords instantly formed in his chaos domain. With a wave of his hand, all the chaos thunder tribulation swords shot out in all directions. Gradually, the power of the ice around him weakened, and Zhao Feng wiped it away bit by bit. Dream path power? The blue-haired old man gnashed his teeth in anger. He had seen dream path power before. Dream path cultivators were extraordinarily powerful in their own dream realm power. Otherwise, even with the protection of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, Zhao Feng would still be completely frozen by this attack. In the underground base, the right protector observed the blue-haired old man's battle situation and couldn't help but sigh. Even ordinary, godly monarchs can't do anything to him anymore. As a samsara immortal body, the blue-haired old man was undying and extremely difficult to deal with. However, he had lost his original divine body and the boost of his bloodline energy, so his abilities had dropped in all aspects. Zhao Feng also knew this. His battle with the blue-haired old man wasn't difficult, but if it were the illusion god race's God King Nethercloud or the left protector, he would probably find it very difficult to deal with them. These two were outstanding godly monarchs. However, Zhao Feng was only treating the blue-haired old man as a training target. Once he reached the third heaven, he would probably be able to contend against top-class godly monarchs like God King Nethercloud. Boom! Bang! Crash! The two fiercely clashed for several hundred moves, but neither could do anything to the other. At this moment, the Life Sacred Land Army had broken through the heaven-defying faction's defenses and was attacking the central island. Retreat! The left protector and right protector piloted two black old warships, carrying their members, and chose to retreat. If they couldn't even defend against their own divine kingdom, there was no point in continuing to fight. Oomph. The blue-haired old man snorted, viciously glaring at Zhao Feng as he reluctantly retreated. The other samsara immortal bodies also began to flee. Zhao Feng did not pursue. After all, samsara immortal bodies were far too difficult to kill. On the other hand, although the heaven-defying faction had retreated, it had probably left quite a few treasures behind that they hadn't been able to move. The majority of the Life Sacred Land Army left in pursuit, while a small number remained in the Heaven's legacy race divine kingdom. The heaven-defying faction is doomed. The crystalline robe sighed. He hadn't expected for the powerful heaven-defying faction to face such a day. But their opponents were three god-eye deities, so there was nothing they could do about it. I wonder if the three god eyes can kill the Heaven Lord. Zhao Feng mentally muttered to himself. As long as the Heaven Lord wasn't dead, he would never be able to rest easy. Although no god had ever died since the 8 great god eyes were born. But if 3 gods work together, they should be able to kill a god. The sky above the heaven-defying faction divine kingdom was dark. Die. The Heaven Lord gripped the ancestral artifact Xing Tian and swung it down, unleashing a dazzling beam of golden light that seemed capable of cleaving the world in two. In the face of such a powerful Heaven Lord, the 3 god deities chose to retreat. In terms of attack power, none of them could compare to the Heaven Lord, but they were still rather confident in their ability to kill him. After all, they had three god eyes working together, and they could exhaust the Heaven Lord to death. Tens of millions of li away, three figures were hidden in the void. Is the heaven-defying faction really that strong? Not even the three god eyes working together could kill it. A curvaceous woman in a dark purple dress chuckled. Kiki, the three of them have probably sensed our presence and don't plan on fighting to the death with the Heaven Lord. They want to exhaust the owner of the heavenly Tao God, I to death, with low casualties. The death god wickedly chuckled. Are they afraid that we'll just sit back and reap the benefits? An elder in a luxurious golden robe softly said, I believe that it's better for us to attack, lest the Heaven's legacy race member escape. Besides, in a direct battle, the three of us are stronger. The woman faintly smiled. The three of them were the death god, the destruction god, and the samsara god. The destruction god and death god were extremely powerful, but the samsara god had a samsara immortal body, making her even more difficult to deal with. In terms of fighting power, the three of them truly did have the advantage. The divine punishment god had the life god, who was more skilled in attrition and protracted battles. That's fine. This Xingtian is an ancestral artifact that suits my taste. The destruction god's eyes flashed with sharp light as he appeared determined to win. Okay, let's do it, the death god sternly said. According to his scouts, the heaven-defying faction had already fallen into a disadvantageous position in the divine kingdom and was forced to retreat. He was more interested in the heaven's legacy race's research, especially the heavenly Tao ancestral eye. He could not let anyone else get it first. After finishing their discussion, the three god-eye deities vanished. On the god battlefield, the world was shattered, and forbidden storms were blowing everywhere. Even a second heaven god lord would die if they weren't careful. Boom, bang, crash. The heaven lord's attacks were invincible, forcing the three god eyes to retreat. You can't kill me, so why don't we just drop the matter? The heaven's legacy race is willing to compensate. The heaven lord proposed to the three god eyes. He seemed powerful, but he was fighting against three god-eye deities, especially one with a life god eye. Victory was practically impossible. The divine punishment god frowned. If they weren't on guard against the other god eyes hiding in the shadows, the three of them would have already heavily injured the heaven lord. Suddenly, the three god-eye deities grimaced. At this moment, a resounding and tyrannical voice resounded. Ha! You want to drop the matter? If you dare to touch one of the 8 great god eyes, you'll have to pay with your life. In a flash of golden light, a golden-robed elder appeared. Swish! A stooped and gloomy old man appeared beside him. Behind the two of them was a woman with an enchanting figure and light footsteps. She slowly walked forward. And here I thought that the three of you would continue hiding like turtles. The space-time god sneered. It's just that you're too useless. 3 against 1, and you still can't end the battle. We'll have to step in. The death god sinisterly laughed. At this moment, 6 of the 8 great god eyes had appeared. The entire world was twisted and oppressive. Haha, I didn't think that 6 god-eye deities would appear together. The heaven lord suddenly laughed. The 6 god-eye deities turned to the heaven lord. They were forced to admit that this man was truly powerful. But the heaven lord's actions made him an enemy of the 8 great god eyes. In the era of the 8 great god eyes, the heaven lord was bound to lose. Although I can't obtain the origins of the 8 great god eyes and fuse them with the heavenly Tao ancestral eye, taking 6 god-eye deities down with me isn't bad. The heaven lord's origin energy began to burn. Do you have any other trump cards? The space-time god's eyes flashed as he swiftly retreated. The other gods warily backed away, but they still stared at the heaven lord. Reversal. The heaven lord immediately activated his heavenly Tao god eye, causing the entire world to reverse. The retreating gods began to approach the heaven lord. But this effect lasted only a moment. The 6 gods turned around and retreated once more. Explode. the Heaven Lord suddenly slapped his other hand on the ancestral artifact Heaven Punishment, unleashing a terrifying metal law energy that shook the world. You're crazy. You actually detonated the ancestral artifact. The destruction god bellowed in shock. He had taken a liking to this ancestral artifact, but the Heaven Lord actually wanted to destroy it before his death. Although he was reluctant, the destruction god had no choice but to retreat. The explosion of an ancestral artifact was no joke. Die! The Heaven Lord gave a despairing smile, and even the origin energy in his body began to burn. Boom! Bang! The ancestral artifact, Xing Tian, exploded, and a world-shaking power spread out. Heaven and earth shattered, shattering inch by inch. Everything turned into ashes. The distant heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom also suffered a massive impact. The remaining people in the Divine Kingdom sensed that something was wrong. Thump, 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 thump. Zhao Feng's left eye began to pulse, warning Zhao Feng. Let's get out of here first. Zhao Feng put all his subordinates into the ancient dream realm and fled with the pseudo-ancestral artifact. In the outside world, the world was in chaos, and terrifying storms were wreaking havoc. What happened? Zhao Feng retreated in shock, near the explosion of the ancestral artifact. The clothes of the six god-eye deities were in tatters, and their expressions were wretched. Trying to run? The six hegemons chased after him. They could sense that the Heaven Lord had not died, that he had fled before the ancestral artifact detonated. He actually destroyed an ancestral item. The destruction's sovereign had a venomous look on his face. Can't we escape? The Heaven Lord's face was ghastly pale as he sighed. Although he had detonated his ancestral artifact, he had not been able to kill the six god eyes, only push them back. However, the Heaven Lord had also been heavily injured. The six hegemons closed in at high speed. Ah, the Heaven Lord roared. With a wave of his hand, the distant heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom flew toward him. Since you are so stubborn, then let's die together. The Heaven Lord's face was filled with despair and madness. Buzz. In his body, origin energy burned, and a terrifying power brewed. The heaven-defying faction's god nation also came to his side. Not good. The six gods, who had just gotten close to the Heaven Lord, realized that something was wrong. Let's die together. Destructive energy erupted from the Heaven Lord's body. The Heaven Lord also detonated the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. Boom! A heaven-shaking explosion resounded through the world, obliterating everything. Chapter 1549. This explosion was like the source of destruction, devouring everything in the world. All of the Xiling zone could feel the tremor. Zhao Feng wasn't even at the edge of the explosion, but he was still pushed back several thousand li by the shockwaves. If not for the defense of the pseudo-ancestral artifact, he would have lost a layer of skin. Boom! The power of the explosion continued to spread, exuding a dreadful, ancient, forbidden energy that devoured all. How terrifying! Zhao Feng's heart palpitated in fear. Even a normal third heaven god lord at the edge of the explosion would be doomed. It was hard to imagine just what had happened in a battle between gods. But when Zhao Feng left the Divine Kingdom, he sensed the energy of the six god eyes, so he speculated that the Heaven Lord would fail. On the other side, the fleeing Heaven's Legacy race members and the pursuing life Sacred Land members were all trembling in fear. Fortunately, they had left the Divine Kingdom and distanced themselves from the battlefield of gods. Otherwise, they really would have become cannon fodder for the gods. Of course, there were quite a few people left in the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. And since the Divine Kingdom was at the center of the explosion, they had completely vanished from the world. Kaboom! The storm did not disperse for a long time. Near the center of the explosion, cough, cough, this scoundrel actually detonated his Divine Kingdom and even burned his origin energy. A dissatisfied voice rang out as a golden-robed elder appeared. The Heaven Lord's origin energy was the energy of the ancient race. One could easily imagine the power of that terrifying, explosive divine power to create an explosion. Moreover, The heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom itself was an enormous treasury. It contained many Heaven's legacy arrays and mechanical devices, as well as the bloodlines of the 10,000 ancient races. If all of these things exploded, the power they would produce would be unimaginable. How dangerous! He almost killed me. Another resentful female voice rang out. It's all thanks to your samsara, immortal bodies. Otherwise, our situation would have been even worse. The death god's figure gradually appeared, his face pale. They had been rather close to the Heaven Lord at the time of the explosion, so they were in extreme danger. Fortunately, the samsara god's many samsara immortal bodies blocked the way, blocking part of the explosion's power and buying them time to escape. But even so, their injuries were severe and their god-eye origins had been ravaged. After all, they had been injured by the self-detonation of the ancestral artifact, Xingtian, not far behind. I can't believe the three of you are still alive. A disdainful voice rang out as the space-time hegemon and the other two hegemons appeared. From the looks of the three of them, their situation was not much better. Although the space-time ruler had the advantage of speed, she hadn't been able to get very far. Their defensive measures were far inferior to the samsara ruler's human wall of samsara immortal bodies. You're not dead yet. How can I go first? The destruction chief sovereign's gaze turned cold, and he countered with equal harshness. Let's go. He's not dead yet. We must kill him. The divine punishment god snorted and vanished in a bolt of lightning. The space-time sovereign and the life sovereign moved out as well. At the moment of the explosion, all six god eyes sensed that the Heaven Lord had fled. But in order to increase the power of the explosion, the Heaven Lord had burned a great deal of origin energy, having his strength. The Heaven Lord himself could not have been able to avoid the explosion in time. Of course, this wasn't the only time. The Heaven Lord had also been affected by the explosion of the ancestral artifact. Thus, the Heaven Lord was probably extremely weak at this time. As the Heaven Lord fled, the six god eyes sensed the Heaven Lord's weakening energy. Something's wrong. The death god's pitch-black eyes flashed with a strange light. Based on the conjectures of the god eyes, the Heaven Lord truly was extremely weak at this time. Any god could easily kill him, but the divine punishment god and the space-time sovereign were clearly heavily injured, and their origins had been injured. Instead of letting the life sovereign heal them, they were in such a rush to pursue. This made him feel extremely strange. At this moment, aren't you curious as to why the three of them are in such a rush to kill the Heaven Lord? The samsara god I gave a strange and bewitching smile. Oh, what secret is there? The destruction god grimaced. I have my samsara immortal bodies in the life sacred land army. Before the divine kingdom exploded, they discovered an astonishing secret while searching the divine kingdom. God-eye owners and God-eye descendants might be able to obtain the power of the heavenly Tao God, by killing the Heaven Lord. The samsara god explained everything in one go. The Heaven Lord could kill God-eyes and obtain their God-eye origins, allowing him to complete his final plan of creating the heavenly Tao ancestral eye. On the other hand, God-eye deities could kill the Heaven Lord and obtain the power of the heavenly Tao God-eye, perhaps even realizing this plan. This also meant that the Heaven Lord was not the only one who could fuse with the heavenly Tao ancestral eye. Anyone else could, as long as they obtained the power of the heavenly Tao God eye. What? The death god grimaced, his ghastly and savage face appearing sinister and terrifying. The power of the heavenly Tao ancestral eye? The destruction god's mind was stunned. If they, who had god eyes, killed the Heaven Lord and obtained this power, just how powerful would their god eyes become? The samsara god did not say that after obtaining the heavenly Tao energy, any god-eye deity could continue the Heaven Lord's plan and fuse with the heavenly Tao ancestral eye. But the other god eyes were no fools and could guess at this point. I didn't think that you would tell us such an important matter. The death god gave a strange smile, his heart filled with suspicion. If it were him, he would definitely hide it and pursue the Heaven Lord alone. After all, the Heaven Lord was extremely weak at this time. A single god-eye deity could easily kill him. We're on the same side, and besides, I'm no match for life, divine punishment, and space-time. The Samsara god said matter-of-factly. This was one reason. The other reason was that there were quite a few people left in the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom. Almost all of them learned of this and immediately sent word to the factions behind the scenes. In this battle, many factions had assisted the life-sacred land in attacking the heaven-defying faction. Thus, there were probably quite a few factions that learned of this news. Moreover, this news concerned the entire ancient desolate realm of gods. Even if the Samsara god hadn't said anything, it wouldn't have taken long for this news to spread throughout the ancient desolate realm of gods. Moreover, the Samsara god believed that none of the other gods could compare to her when it came to finding people. Let's move. We can't let them obtain this power. The destruction god was impatient. The death god nodded. Buzz. BZZ. The Samsara god's eyes began to turn, unleashing a dusk fog that seemed to come from the underworld. One figure after another flew out, several thousand of them. Of course, the majority of these people did not have very high cultivations. Those with relatively high cultivations had all been sacrificed in blocking the Heaven Lord's explosion and would not be able to revive for some time. Go. Search for this person. If you find anything, inform me immediately. After doing all this, the Samsara god began to leave. The other two gods also began to move out. On the surface, the three god eyes were still on the same side. But in reality, all of them were independent, because any one of them who obtained the power of the heavenly Tao God, I would be able to stand at the apex of god eyes, possessing the power to look down upon the ancient desolate realm. There is even a chance that they could fuse with the heavenly Tao ancestral eye and obtain this supreme and perfect power. The curtain had finally fallen on the life-sacred land and the heaven-defying factions' monstrous battle. But at the same time, another battle had begun. That was the battle for the heavenly Tao God Eye. In the distance, Zhao Feng floated in the tattered void. Too terrifying. A battle between gods. Zhao Feng sighed. Nearly half of the Xiling Zone had been swept up in this battle. And this was only because the battle between gods hadn't lasted too long and hadn't been carried out on a large scale. Otherwise, the entire Xiling Zone would have been destroyed. The heaven-defying faction has offended the 8 great god eyes. It's finally over. Zhao Feng breathed a sigh of relief. But for some reason, his dream god, I still felt tense. At this moment, Zhao Yufei sent him a message. What? Zhao Feng grimaced. At this moment, while Zhao Yufei was with the Life-Sacred Land Army, the news that other god-eye deities could also steal the heavenly Tao God Eye's power had already spread. Even if the Heaven Lord lost, the entire ancient desolate realm of gods will not have peace. Zhao Feng's brow furrowed. The Heaven Lord was not dead, but he was heavily injured and weak. At this moment, the 6 god eyes were in pursuit. Kit, what's going on? The crystalline robe asked. The heaven-defying faction had already been defeated, and the Heaven Lord was doomed to die. But Zhao Feng was still asking such a question. It's not that simple. Zhao Feng gave a simple explanation of what had happened. So that's how it is. The crystalline robe was stunned. The current situation truly was not much better. Although the Heaven Lord had been defeated, any god eye that obtained the power of the heavenly Tao God, I would undoubtedly become an even greater threat than the Heaven Lord. Of course, an ordinary God Lord or God King would not be as much of a threat if they obtained this power, but they would still face the possibility of stealing it. This was going to be a struggle that was hard to predict and difficult to end. Unless the person who obtained the heavenly Tao God, I was able to resist the temptation of that power and destroy it. Let's go and rest for a while. Zhao Feng sighed. This battle had been quite tiring. You're not going to fight for the heavenly Tao God Eye. The robe was surprised. He did not believe that Zhao Feng did not desire this power. Zhao Feng truly did desire this power. Once he obtained it, his strength would soar to the point where he would even be able to contend against god-eye deities. I'm alone and can't compare to the 8 great god eyes. Even if I obtain it, I'll be hunted down by many god eyes. Zhao Feng shook his head. At the very least, that was the case for now. Moreover, how could he compare to the vast network of god-eye deities when it came to finding people? His chances were far too low. I'll break into the third heaven first. Zhao Feng made his decision. Once he broke through, if the matter of the heavenly Tao God was not resolved, he could still participate in the struggle. Zhao Feng did not return. He found a secluded place in the Xiling Zone, entered his divine kingdom, and began to cultivate. In the outside world, news continued to spread from the Xiling Zone to the surrounding zones, all the way to the 18 savage desolate zones. The struggle for the heavenly Tao God had begun. Chapter 1550. Zhao Feng returned to the Dream Divine Kingdom and rested for a few days. He began to negotiate with the pseudo-ancestral artifact. In the end, the pseudo-ancestral artifact agreed to temporarily follow Zhao Feng for 1 million years. After 1 million years, it would not restrict its freedom. The pseudo-ancestral artifact followed Zhao Feng naturally because Zhao Feng had saved it. But the Heaven Lord's actions had enraged the 6 god eyes, and the heaven-defying faction was doomed. It did not need Zhao Feng to save it to gain its freedom. Thus, the pseudo-ancestral artifact would only follow Zhao Feng for 1 million years. But for Zhao Feng, 1 million years was enough. He was confident that he could fully utilize the power of the Dream God Eye and become a God Eye deity. At that time, the pseudo-ancestral artifact would no longer be necessary. Zhao Feng spent some time refining the pseudo-ancestral artifact. In the process, Zhao Feng also fused the space ancestral artifact fragment in his hand into it. They had originally been one. 5 months later, Zhao Feng completely refined the pseudo-ancestral artifact. This space pseudo-ancestral artifact had been called Heaven Ascendant when it was complete. Although it was now just a pseudo-ancestral artifact, the complete Heaven Ascendant was no longer around, so it was fine for Zhao Feng to call it Heaven Ascendant. After swapping out the space-time robe and putting on Heaven Ascendant, Zhao Feng immediately felt like he had complete control over space energy. He even felt like he was standing above space itself. With Heaven Ascendant, even without using the power of the Dream God Eye, I can fight against a normal God King. After testing out Heaven Ascendant's power, Zhao Feng had this conjecture. With Zhao Feng's defensive skills and Heaven Ascendant's defenses, he could easily block the ordinary attacks of a God King. Against a God King that was not skilled in speed, Zhao Feng could hold the advantage in speed. Refining the pseudo-ancestral artifact not only boosted his strength, but also pushed his cultivation. The pseudo-ancestral artifact itself contained a perfected space law. After refining it, Zhao Feng could comprehend this space law at any time, greatly boosting his comprehension of space. Arriving at the core of the Divine Kingdom, Zhao Feng sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. The flow of time in the God Kingdom was different from the outside world, so Zhao Feng had plenty of time. Now, Zhao Feng's goal was to break through to the third heaven. Before that, Zhao Feng could use the resources he had plundered from the heaven-defying faction's divine kingdom to strengthen his foundations. First, Zhao Feng took out the 9 thunder heavenly bamboo. Immediately, the invisible power of thunder and lightning gathered in the sky above the 9 lightning heaven bamboo, forming a domain of thunder that fell continuously. Zhao Feng closed his eyes slightly. His soul will spread out and seeped in the 9 thunder heaven bamboo. After comprehending for a period of time, Zhao Feng entered a meditative state and absorbed the essence of the 9 thunder heaven bamboo. In an instant, he felt his comprehension of the law of lightning surging into his mind. Time passed quickly. Zhao Feng had been cultivating for several years, but only a few days had passed in the outside world. At this moment, all of the ancient, desolate realm of gods was alarmed by a certain rumor. If the 8 great god eyes killed the Heaven Lord, they would obtain the power of the heavenly Tao God Eye and surpass gods. They might even be able to complete the Heaven Lord's unfinished plan. Of course, it wasn't just the 8 great God Eyes. God Eye descendants might also be able to steal this power and become new gods. This made countless God Eye descendants scramble for the heavenly Tao God Eye. There were even some experts who were not God Eye descendants, but possessed other eyes that held a sliver of hope. Many experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods had formed an alliance with the goal of eliminating the heavenly Tao God Eye. In the southwestern part of the ancient desolate realm of gods, in the dazzling light zone, the factions of the nearby zones had gathered here. In the Golden Crow sacred land, the bright sun god sat on his throne, his dazzling golden-red eyes exuding a scorching light that no one dared to look directly at. Besides the bright sun god, all the god kings of the nearby zones had come, including the Tianhe zone's god King Charflame, who had fought with Zhao Feng's group before. The reason I have gathered everyone here is extremely simple. Search for the Heaven Lord and destroy the heavenly Tao God Eye. The bright sun god sat on his throne, exuding boundless majesty. The Tianhe zone agrees with the bright sun god. God King Charflame immediately expressed his stance. As long as the power of the heavenly Tao God Eye existed, it would severely affect the balance of the ancient desolate realm of gods. Any God Eye deity that obtained this power could become the next Heaven Lord. Thus, this power had to be destroyed. The Linglong zone will do its utmost. A woman with the appearance of a celestial fairy stood up. She was a god king of the Linglong zone's sacred land. At that instant, a formidable aura descended upon the place. All the power in the world seemed to be changing, gathering outside. Space within the hall seemed to freeze. Even god lords felt an enormous pressure that made it difficult for them to move. Myriad forms god, I didn't think that you would have the time to visit me. The bright sun god said, his expression grave. In the next moment, an old man appeared in the palace hall. His eyes were in the shape of a vortex, and multicolored radiance flowed within them. The old man's hair was also of various colors. Furthermore, it was extremely natural. It was like the sky, the earth, the mountains, and the rivers. The myriad forms god, one of the god deities. Many experts in the hall were panicking. They were just discussing how to destroy the heavenly Tao God Eye, and now one of the god deities had appeared. Quite a few people even wondered if the myriad forms god had come to make trouble. At this moment, the myriad forms god finally spoke. I also agree with your view. Many people in the hall were stunned. None of them had expected the myriad forms god to say such a thing. Myriad forms, you truly did not disappoint me. The bright sun god smiled. The god kings present might have known that the bright sun god and the myriad forms god had a rather good relationship. Both of them were indifferent to fame and wealth and liked to wander the world. If not for the appearance of the heavenly Tao God Eye, the bright sun god would have not returned to the sacred land for several 100 million years. We cannot allow this power to disturb the balance of nature. I will also help. The myriad forms god sternly said. It wasn't just this place. Alliances of various sizes have been formed in other parts of the ancient desolate realm of gods with the goal of destroying the heavenly Tao God Eye. The power of the heavenly Tao God Eye was extremely alluring to the 8 great God Eyes and God Eye descendants, but it was of little use to the other god kings. Moreover, the other god kings and gods did not wish for the God Eye factions to obtain this power. The top-class experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods began to move, including the god kings and gods who had been in seclusion for hundreds of millions of years. Perhaps it was because the Heaven Lord was a member of the Heaven's legacy race with divination and the special abilities of the heavenly Tao God Eye, but the Heaven Lord had only appeared a few times, but he had not been captured and was still fleeing. What was certain was that the Heaven Lord was being hunted by the entire ancient desolate realm of gods and had no time to rest. Moreover, his god origin had been heavily injured and exhausted, and he could not recover from it in a short time. Thus, the Heaven Lord was not much stronger than when he was fleeing from the God Eyes. The 6 God Eyes continued to madly search for the Heaven Lord. Within the Dream Divine Kingdom, Zhao Feng had been in seclusion for a long time. Next to him was a withered tree of dark silver with several bright silver leaves. This was none other than the space-type treasure, the Space Spirit Tree. Beneath the Space Spirit Tree was a round piece of jade that glowed with moonlight. This was the space-type treasure, the Void Profound Spirit Jade. He had long ago finished cultivating the Lightning Tao, and Zhao Feng had also spent some time comprehending the time law. At this moment, he was concentrating on comprehending the space law. Within his body, the primal chaos scripture began to circulate. Zhao Feng was ready to break into the third heaven. One day, in the northern region of the ancient desolate realm of gods, a golden figure flew by, exuding a powerful divine sense that carefully searched every inch of the world. This golden figure was the God King of the Tongtai Zone, God King Heaven Dragon. Back in the Tongtai Zone, he had personally searched for Zhao Feng, but in the end, Zhao Feng had escaped from his clone. God King Heaven Dragon suddenly sensed that something was wrong. He focused his mind and slowly moved. At this moment, boom, bang, the space in the distance twisted open, and a white-robed figure charged out. Heaven Lord, God King Heaven Dragon grimaced. However, the Heaven Lord's aura was extremely weak and chaotic. His eyes were dim, and the vertical eye on his forehead was closed. After him, we can't let him go. God King Heaven Dragon immediately pursued, taking out a token. After sensing for a while, God King Heaven Dragon smiled. He had also joined the Bright Sun God's Alliance. This token allowed him to sense the experts of the Alliance within a certain range. God King Heaven Dragon doggedly pursued, and it didn't take long before another God King appeared in front of the Heaven Lord. You can't escape. God King Heaven Dragon heartily laughed. He couldn't obtain the heavenly Tao God Eye, but the Heaven Lord had more than one treasure. It was rumored that he also had many ancestral artifact fragments and even pseudo-ancestral artifacts. The pseudo-ancestral artifact, Blazing Hell, had appeared before. Moreover, the Bright Sun God had promised that if anyone in the Alliance killed the Heaven Lord, he would do everything in his power to help that person. 3 favors from Hegemon were extremely valuable even to a God King. The Heaven Lord's face was dark and furious. With a wave of his hand, the pseudo-ancestral artifact, Blazing Hell, appeared. Scram! The Heaven Lord roared as he activated the pseudo-ancestral artifact, unleashing boundless flames that wreaked havoc through the world. But when God King Heaven Dragon and another God King skilled in the water law worked together, they possessed extraordinary power. Boom! Bang! Crash! The 2 God Kings were working together to pincer the Heaven Lord, making it difficult for him to deal with them. You 2 fleas. At my peak, this old man could have killed you with a single finger. The Heaven Lord roared in frustration. You've reached the end of your road. There's no chance for you to return to your peak. God King Gold Dragon heartily laughed. He and the other God King continued to press forward. Scram! The Heaven Lord roared, his body erupting with a golden-silver light that pushed back the 2 God Kings. This energy was none other than the power of the ancient race bloodline. As he pushed back the 2 God Kings, the Heaven Lord activated the heavenly Tao God Eye to increase his speed and flee. He's already spent. Don't let him run. God King Gold Dragon and the other God King immediately pursued. At the same time, the news of the Heaven Lord's appearance began to spread, and the experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods began to gather in the north. This included the 7 great God Eyes besides the Destiny God Eye. While the entire ancient desolate realm of gods was reeling over the heavenly Tao God Eye, the Sage faction, on the other hand, was extremely peaceful. One reason was that the majority of the members of the Sage faction were not skilled in battle. The other reason was that the Heaven Lord, who had the heavenly Tao God Eye and the ancient race bloodline, was very difficult to divine. Of course, not everyone could do it. Yu Qianwu and Lu Qinxin had been in seclusion this entire time, doing all they could to divine the Heaven Lord situation. The other sages were also waiting for Lord Tianwu's results and orders. On this day, Yu Tianwu opened his eyes. The danger from Yu Tianshu still exists, and it's enormous. The Yu Tianshu that Yu Tianwu spoke of was the Heaven Lord of the Heaven-defying faction. At the same time, Yu Tianwu messaged Lu Qinshin. Qinshin, what did your eyes see? The scene is very blurry, and it's hard to describe the exact situation, but my eyes can sense that a god eye is about to fall. Chapter 1551. The Xiling Zone, within the Dream Divine Kingdom. Zhao Feng was immersed in cultivation, completely unaware of what was happening in the outside world. At this moment, he was trying to break through the barrier of the third heaven. Beside him, the heaven void silver leaf on the space spirit tree emitted powerful spatial fluctuations, causing the surrounding space to overlap, making it hard to tell what was real and what was fake. Down below, the void profound spirit jade released a space-time essence that Zhao Feng absorbed and comprehended. Inside Zhao Feng's body, the primal chaos scripture began to circulate, and a huge amount of chaos divine power surged and gradually gathered at the god altar in his body. Buzz, the third altar slowly took shape on top of the two-tiered altar. While the god altars were being constructed, the two god altars below were surging with chaos divine energy and pouring into the third god altar. At the same time, Zhao Feng was still comprehending the law of space, trying to break through the threshold of large success. With the space spiritual tree and the void profound spirit stone, breaking through the space law wouldn't be a problem. Therefore, Zhao Feng focused more of his energy on the construction and consolidation of the altar. Of course, Zhao Feng had not forgotten that when he obtained the primal chaos scripture, he had also obtained some remnant God King level primal chaos energy. If I can fuse a portion of God King level chaotic force into the third level of the God altar, my foundation will be even more stable. Zhao Feng pondered. If it was a true God King level primal chaos force, doing so would undoubtedly be extremely dangerous. However, this chaotic force had experienced too much time, and its quality was not as good as it was at the beginning, so it was worth a try. Meanwhile, ancient desolate realm of gods, north. News of the Heaven Lord's appearance first reached the Bright Sun Gods Alliance, but it was naturally impossible to keep such important news under wraps. The next day, the news spread like wildfire throughout the wildlands. Many experts gathered towards the northern part of the ancient desolate realm of gods. There was only one heavenly Tao God Eye, and there were far too many people who wanted it and far too many people who wanted to destroy it. Everyone was racing against time as they gathered towards the north and searched every inch of the world. In a dark forest somewhere, a white-robed old man suddenly appeared out of thin air. Let's hope our luck is good. The Heaven Lord sighed and began to flee. Meanwhile, Xiao, a black figure, was flying rapidly between heaven and earth. Heaven Lord! The black figure paused and cried out in alarm. Die! The Heavenly Lord bellowed and punched out. The powerful and domineering fist shadow whizzed forward. His opponent was only a third heaven. Even a heavily injured Heaven Lord could be easily dealt with. Who? Fist shadows whizzed past and engulfed the Divine Master's figure. Not good, Samsara immortal body. The Heavenly Lord sensed that something was wrong. When he killed the other party, he didn't feel a strong death aura. From this, it was very likely that the other party was a Samsara immortal body. Although the Samsara immortal body was undying and indestructible, if it was completely erased in an instant, it would be very difficult to recover unless its master revived it. Xiao, the Heaven Lord, swiftly left. However, the owner of the dead Samsara immortal body seemed to be extremely powerful. A few seconds later, 3 more Samsara immortal bodies appeared in the Heaven Lord's vision. Rumble. The Heaven Lord swung his fists, instantly obliterating them. However, not long after, a few hundred Samsara immortal bodies arrived. There are so many Samsara immortal bodies, and their cultivations are not low. Could it be? The Heaven Lord speculated. Yes, it's me. Your time of death has come. A ghastly chuckle drifted over. In a certain direction, many samsara mortal bodies made way for a woman in a dark purple dress. Her steps were gentle as she slowly walked over. This person was none other than the samsara god. The samsara god had countless slaves in her samsara, and they shared the samsara god's vision. She had spies in the major alliances of the ancient desolate realm of gods, and many samsara immortal bodies were hidden among the six god eyes. The samsara god herself was one of the people who had been tracking the Heaven Lord from the very start. I didn't think that the samsara god would show herself for me. The Heaven Lord couldn't help but smile. In normal circumstances, the samsara god, who was not skilled in combat, would hide behind the curtains and have the samsara immortal bodies do everything for her. The samsara god had only appeared this time because she had no other choice. The Heaven Lord's two explosions had almost completely obliterated the samsara god's powerful immortal bodies. And the heavily injured samsara god had no time to rest, nor did she have the time to revive them. The samsara god did not have any powerful samsara immortal bodies to deal with the Heaven Lord. Thus, the samsara god had to personally take action. Even if she was not skilled in combat, she was still a god, her fighting power far surpassing that of a god king. Moreover, based on the intelligence reports, the Heaven Lord's injuries were so severe that he could not even fully open his heavenly Tao God eye. Even when facing two god kings, he could only flee. Just obediently be my samsara immortal body. I'll take good care of you. The samsara god bewitchingly smiled, her eyes glimmering with a greedy and wicked light as she stared at the heavenly Tao God eye on the Heaven Lord's forehead. It seems like this old man's luck isn't bad. The Heaven Lord suddenly smiled, his smile suffused with desire, confidence, and tyranny. The samsara god's brow creased. The Heaven Lord was still able to smile in such a desperate situation. But a moment later, she grimaced. Boom! A primordial and ancient energy erupted from the Heaven Lord's body. His body transformed into a god-devil body 100 feet tall, covered in gold and silver light, and exuding a tyrannical energy that could suppress all things. Moreover, the heavenly Tao God eye on the Heaven Lord's forehead suddenly opened. Those 8 eyes stared at the samsara sovereign. No, impossible. Weren't you heavily injured? The samsara god, I was stunned. At this moment, the God Lord was like a patient suffering from an incurable disease that had suddenly recovered. She sensed that, although the Heaven Lord was injured, his injuries were much better than the samsara god's, and not as severe as she imagined. But even so, the samsara god, I did not dare to fight the Heaven Lord head-on. One had to realize that not even the space-time god, skilled in combat and invincible in speed, was a match for the Heaven Lord. Die. The Heaven Lord's face chilled as the heavenly Tao God eye on his forehead began to turn. Lightning, fire, and lightning exploded in the air, causing space to crumble and terrifying storms to shake the world. Protect me, the samsara god called out as she rapidly retreated. Although her injuries were about the same as the Heaven Lord's, even at her peak, she would not have dared to fight the Heaven Lord head-on, and she had sacrificed all her powerful samsara immortal bodies. Boom, bang, crash. The power of a god could dominate a region of the world. All living beings in this dimension were instantly annihilated. The countless samsara immortal bodies vanished in the blink of an eye. Samsara bind. The samsara god activated her samsara god eye, unleashing a gloomy mist that could not be dispelled. The samsara god knew that her samsara immortal bodies were no match for the Heaven Lord. Thus, when the Heaven Lord attacked, she had prepared this move. Hissus. The gloomy mist surrounded the Heaven Lord and sealed him within. At the same time, the samsara god fled. You want to trap me with just this? The Heaven Lord heartily laughed, the heavenly Tao god eye erupting with destructive energy. Boom, bang. In a flash, the samsara god's power binding him collapsed. The Heaven Lord had studied the 8 great god eyes more deeply than anyone else. The samsara god's attack could not be broken by ordinary methods, so he immediately used the power of the heavenly Tao God Eye. He had to kill the samsara god as quickly as possible. Bang! A fist punched out, golden and silver divine light piercing through the world and destroying all in its path. No! The samsara god screamed in fear. The samsara god's main body was the weakest of the 8 great god eyes, second only to the destiny god eye. The Heaven Lord's fist was an attack that she found difficult to defend against. The majority of the samsara god's body was turned to dust, but the samsara god herself was the strongest samsara immortal body. Hisses. The samsara god's body gradually recovered. Ancient heaven shakes the heavens. The Heaven Lord brought his hands together and roared, unleashing vast amounts of ancient race bloodline energy that caused the entire dimension to tremble. Kaboom! A golden and silver divine seal condensed in the sky, exuding a dreadful suppressive power as it rumbled down. The samsara god could not dodge and was suppressed. How could this be? What's going on with your injuries? The samsara god stared in fear at the Heaven Lord, unable to understand. The Heaven Lord that had escaped from 6 god eyes clearly had a weak aura that not even 2 god kings could deal with. How could he suddenly become so strong? Was everything just an act? But not even the illusion god race, skilled in disguise, could deceive the god eyes. Die! The Heaven Lord found it hard to suppress his laughter. At this moment, all he wanted to do was kill the samsara god. He had no time to answer her questions. Boom! Bang! Crash! The heavenly Tao God I activated, and the power of the ancient golden and silver divine seal gradually increased, dealing a destructive blow to the samsara god. The samsara god's body was constantly being destroyed and healed, but there was a limit to all this. Once her samsara origin was used up, she would no longer be able to revive. Heaven Lord, your plan won't succeed. The samsara god clenched her teeth and activated the samsara of life god Eye. She could not escape from the Heaven Lord's hands, and if this stalemate continued, she would die. Thus, she chose to use the samsara of life god Eye to reincarnate. After reincarnation, the samsara god I would still be with her, and she would once more become the samsara god. And the Heaven Lord's display of such power was certain to alarm others. This also meant that the Heaven Lord's disguise had been exposed, and he could no longer use the same plan to kill a second god Eye. Hisses. The samsara god's body and soul transformed into a streak of light that surged into the samsara of life god Eye. In front of the heavenly Tao god Eye, I control all laws and order. The heavenly Tao god Eye on the Heaven Lord's forehead flashed with sharp light. Instantly, a powerful force that could destroy all laws and order burst forth. At this moment, everything around the Heaven Lord collapsed, including the Heaven Lord's own golden and silver divine seal. But at the same time, the samsara god's secret art, samsara rebirth, was interrupted. No! The samsara god's face turned ghastly pale, and her samsara god I became extremely weak. She had gambled everything on reincarnation. Now that this secret art had been interrupted, she had not only consumed a great deal of energy, but she had also suffered a backlash. Now you can die. The Heaven Lord's eyes flashed with a savage light. Boom! Circulating his ancient race bloodline, a peerlessly powerful golden and silver divine fist howled forward. With the heavenly Tao God eyes buff, this fist of energy crackled with lightning and wind, its power rising to a level that no one could match. Boom! Bang! The fist of energy shattered the world, and the samsara god's body was obliterated, including her samsara god Eye. Now, one of the 8 great god eyes had fallen. The Heaven Lord stood where he was, sensing the supreme god energy descending from the fan universe and pouring into his heavenly Tao god Eye. Chapter 1552. In the core of the dream divine kingdom. In the sky, An enormous vortex of gloomy yuan qi was slowly spinning. Under the influence of Zhao Feng's thoughts, the heaven-earth yuan qi within the dream divine kingdom automatically gathered. Down below, Zhao Feng's surroundings rippled with powerful primal chaos energy and a profound space law, causing space-time to twist. Next to Zhao Feng, the heaven void silver leaf on the space spirit tree had already withered, and the void profound spirit jade next to it had dimmed to become an ordinary piece of crystal jade. Within Zhao Feng's body, the third level of the god altar had already been formed. The primal chaos energy within it was rapidly circulating, driving the primal chaos energy in the two god altars below. This primal chaos energy was mixed with an abnormally violent and uncontrollable primal chaos energy. This was the God King level primal chaos energy. But this primal chaos energy was rather small, so it was constantly suppressed by Zhao Feng's vast primal chaos energy. Moreover, as the primal chaos energy accumulated over time, it was gradually tamed and assimilated. At the same time, Zhao Feng took out a large number of resources and madly absorbed them. An endless stream of energy flowed into the three-tiered god altar. 10 days later, the primal chaos energy in Zhao Feng's body stopped circulating. The three-tiered god altar in his body had already fused into one, becoming even more stable and sturdy. At this point, Zhao Feng had reached the third heaven of God Lord realm. With each layer of the god altar, the amount of primal chaos energy would multiply. At this moment, Zhao Feng felt like he had an endless supply of energy that he could use without end. Other than the transformation of his god altar and divine power, his space law had also improved. Major success level space law. As Zhao Feng sensed this law and began to circulate it, he gained a deeper understanding of his divine kingdom. Zhao Feng realized that the improvement of his space law could also further strengthen his divine kingdom. But suddenly, thump, 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 Zhao Feng's dream god I began to pulse, sending out a complicated message. After a long time of comprehension, Zhao Feng opened his eyes once more. God Eye has fallen. Zhao Feng's heart skipped a beat in disbelief. He had originally planned to participate in the competition for the heavenly Tao God after successfully breaking into the third heaven. He hadn't expected for such a major event to occur right after he broke into the third heaven, the fall of the God Eye. Moreover, Zhao Feng could sense that the heavenly Tao God Eye, which did not belong to the 8 great God Eyes, was even stronger than before. I can actually sense the heavenly Tao God Eye. Zhao Feng was slightly surprised. The moment the God Eye fell, he suddenly sensed the heavenly Tao God Eye, and the power of the heavenly Tao God I seemed to have increased. Could it be? Zhao Feng's eyes widened as he thought of a certain possibility. Thinking of this, Zhao Feng could no longer sit still. Teleportation. Zhao Feng used his dream origin to create a dream that depicted a certain scene in the life-sacred land. Whoosh! His figure disappeared. At the same time, in the northern part of the ancient desolate realm of gods, upon receiving the news, the 3 sovereigns of heavenly punishment, space-time, and life, who were on their way to their destination, were stunned. Just now a god eye fell. The life god was alarmed. How could this be? Who has this kind of power? The divine punishment god had a solemn expression. Ever since the 8 great god eyes were born, no god had ever fallen, much less one of the 8 great god eyes. But it's not impossible. In the battle between the 6 god eyes and the heaven lord, we suffered 2 explosions that heavily injured our origins. The space-time god's eyes darkened. If one's origin energy was heavily injured, even if they went into seclusion to recover, it would still take several thousand years. Thus, they were all heavily injured as they pursued the heaven lord. This also meant that the 6 of them were much weaker than normal gods. If 2 or 3 gods worked together and hunted them down, they truly might be able to kill one of the 6 god eyes. Forget it. Killing the heaven lord is more important. The divine punishment god immediately said. The other 2 agreed and continued on their way. With 3 gods together, Even if they were heavily injured, they had nothing to fear. In the northern region of the ancient, desolate realm of gods, the Heaven Lord and the Samsara God I were fighting. The world fell into chaos, leaving the Heaven Lord standing alone in the air. His eyes were half closed, but the heavenly Tao God eye at his forehead was wide open, receiving the supreme God energy from the fan universe. Suddenly, the eye at the center of the Heaven Lord's forehead trembled, and its power seemed to rise another level. This trembling spread through the world, shaking the ancient, desolate realm of gods. The power of the Samsara God, absolute control over Samsara. The Heaven Lord spread open his arms, a look of extreme enjoyment on his face. At this moment, the Samsara God Eye's power was completely transferred to his body. Moreover, the Samsara God Eye's power borrowed from the heavenly Tao God to unleash even greater power. Besides that, the heavenly Tao God Eye itself had also gotten significantly stronger. I've already surpassed the God level, but that's still not enough. After a satisfied smile, the Heaven Lord's expression darkened. Although he possessed power that surpassed the God level, that did not mean he was invincible. His goal was to fuse with the heavenly Tao ancestral I and obtain this supreme and perfect power. What a bunch of idiots, the Heaven Lord mocked. Although he was confident in his ability to kill the life god, nothing was absolute. Anything could change. Just as he expected, a variable had appeared in the battle, and the situation had slipped out of his control. He could not kill any God Eye, and there was even a chance that a God Eye would kill him. But the Heaven Lord would not give up like this. If he wanted to win, he had to break the hatchet and fight with his back to the river. In this battle, he had lost a complete offensive ancestral artifact. The resources the heaven-defying faction had accumulated over countless years in one of his clones. The Heaven Lord had been able to confuse the God Eyes and feign weakness because of this clone, or rather, substitute. When the ancestral artifact Xing Tian exploded, the Heaven Lord had switched identities with his clone. The intimidating nature of the ancestral artifact explosion and the interference of the explosion had successfully affected the judgment of the God Eyes. A second explosion soon followed. This time, the substitute had taken the brunt of the Heaven Lord's attack. The God Eyes had only been able to faintly sense the weak energy of the clone. In truth, the Heaven Lord had only been hit by the shockwaves of the first explosion, and his injuries were lighter than any of the 6 God Eyes. Of course, the substitute had been able to interfere with the 6 God Eyes for 2 reasons. One was that this substitute had been created by the Heaven's legacy cat, which had duplicated the ancient race bloodline. The second was that the Heaven Lord had long ago prepared for this. The clone was identical in every aspect to himself, and it even contained his origin energy. If one didn't look carefully, it would be extremely difficult to tell the difference. Moreover, the intimidating nature of the explosion had affected the judgment of the 6 God Eyes. Only this had allowed the plan to succeed. On the other hand, the Heaven Lord had intentionally spread the news that he could steal the heavenly Tao God Eye, successfully dividing the God Eye alliance. The false appearance of being at the end of the road, the 2 explosions, the confusing use of the substitute, spreading the news to divide the God Eyes, and feigning weakness to bait a single God Eye into attacking. These various schemes had allowed the Heaven Lord to successfully kill a God Eye and complete the first step in his grand undertaking of the heavenly Tao ancestral Eye. Now, I can only fight them head-on. The Heaven Lord naturally knew that the war was not over. From the battle between the heaven-defying faction and the life-sacred land to the battle of gods, and then to the struggle for the heavenly Tao God Eye, there had been no gaps. Now, the struggle for the heavenly Tao God Eye was over, but an even greater battle was about to begin. The battle between the Heaven Lord and the Samsara God could be said to have shaken the heavens. As long as they were nearby, no one would not be attracted. Moreover, the Heaven Lord's tracks had been exposed long ago. So many experts had gathered in the area. Whoosh, whoosh. Several dozen experts arrived from all around, all of them drawn over by the noise from the battle. How could this be? This energy, this power. A second heaven god lord sensed the dreadful energy coming from the distant primal chaos world, and his mind trembled. Didn't the report say that the heaven lord's strength had fallen to the god king level? Since you've come, become my loyal soldiers. The heaven lord's voice resounded in everyone's minds. Run! This was the only thought left in everyone's minds. But in front of the god, they had nowhere to run. Boom! Whoosh! A dreadful, ancient energy caused the world to tremble and rumble. This ancient bloodline energy that could shake the heavens and reign supreme over all races made all living beings in a radius of millions of li tremble and prostrate themselves on the ground. Before the 8 great god eyes were born, the ancient race reigned supreme over all races. If the two had existed at the same time, even the first ancestor of the ancient race would have been able to suppress the god eyes. Extinguish. The heaven lord activated the heavenly Tao god eye, and all sorts of law energies appeared in the world. Wind, fire, thunder, and lightning wreaked havoc and annihilated all. No one below the god king realm would be able to resist this peerless ruler's power. As the world fell silent, everything in the heavenly Tao god eye's vision vanished. Come out! The heaven lord activated the heavenly Tao god eye on his forehead. Before killing these people, the heaven lord had placed a samsara mark on all of them. Thus, these people's souls were now completely under his control. A gloomy hell fog drifted out of the heaven lord's forehead, and one figure after another began to emerge from it. There's still a major battle coming up. It's time to recruit. The heaven lord chuckled and began to move. At the very least, the news that he had killed the samsara god I had not yet spread. There were still countless experts searching for him. Not far away, a dazzling golden light streaked through the air, turning everything in its path to ash. This person was the destruction god. The fall of the god. Just what's going on? The destruction god found it hard to calm down, but he still hurried to the location of the intelligence report. A little while later, he sensed a familiar and powerful energy. This energy, it's the heaven lord. The destruction god was alarmed. How could the heaven lord's energy be this powerful? Back then, he truly had sensed that the fleeing heaven lord's energy was rather weak, and his injuries were even more severe than theirs. After all, the heaven lord had endured 2 explosions and even burned his origin energy. Otherwise, the 6 gods wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state. But at this moment, the heaven lord gave off the feeling that he wasn't very injured. He doesn't seem heavily injured. If this is true, I'm no match for him in a one-on-one fight. As the destruction god thought to himself, he maintained a certain distance from the heaven lord and prepared to retreat. I didn't think that 2 more god deities would arrive so quickly. Let's continue our previous battle. The heaven lord's smile was accompanied by a powerful will to fight. 2. The destruction god's eyes flashed. On the other side of the heaven lord, a pitch-black figure slowly approached, the death god. Destruction, I didn't think that you would arrive so quickly. The death god gave a sinister smile. They had temporarily split up over the heavenly Tao god eye. But now, both of them sensed that the heaven lord was not heavily injured. The 2 god deities secretly began to work together. Chapter 1553. At this moment, the destruction god and death god once more encountered the heaven lord. But both of them sensed that the heaven lord's aura was powerful and that his injuries were not serious. At the very least, they were lighter than the injuries of the 2 god deities. The 2 god deities had never underestimated the heaven lord, so they decided to work together once more. Death light, destruction divine light. The 2 god deities attacked with lightning-fast speed. The power of 2 god deities descended upon the void. The destruction god's eyes shot out a dazzling golden beam of divine light that swept through the void, destroying everything it touched, including the void itself. On the other side, A pitch-black ray of death shot out from the eyes of the Death Chief Sovereign. Everywhere it passed, everything turned dark and lost its color, turning into decay. One black and one gold. Two beams of destructive light shot toward the Heaven Lord. In the face of death and destruction, even other gods would not dare to be careless against these two god-eye deities who were extremely aggressive. But at this moment, the Heaven Lord appeared extremely calm and unmoving. What's going on? The destruction god's expression darkened as he began to think. Based on the intelligence reports, if the Heaven Lord was only a little stronger than an ordinary god king, he truly was doomed against two god-eye deities working together. Thus, the Heaven Lord might have already given up on trying to survive and was putting up no resistance. But for some reason, the destruction god suddenly felt uneasy. Boom! Bang! An enormous wave of destructive black and gold energy engulfed the Heaven Lord's body. This forbidden shockwave spread out in all directions, causing the void to tremble. After a long while, the dust began to settle. The two god eyes saw through everything to the center of the explosion. Impossible! The death god and destruction god blurted out in shock. At the center of the explosion, the Heaven Lord's body was slowly returning to normal. This ability wasn't a samsara immortal body. Could it be? The samsara god had already killed the Heaven Lord and made him her samsara immortal body? But the two god-eye deities thought of another possibility. The samsara god had been killed by the Heaven Lord, and the samsara god-eye's abilities had been stolen by the Heaven Lord. Impossible. Could the fallen god, I be samsara? The destruction sovereign couldn't believe what he was seeing. The Heaven Lord had clearly lost his momentum and was at the end of his rope. So how could he kill a god, and rise once more? Buzz, a golden screen of light burst forth from the destruction sovereign's eyes, enveloping the distance. Within this light screen, everything was slowly crushed and annihilated, turning into nothingness. But this destructive barrier had very little effect on the Heaven Lord. The Heaven Lord had the strongest physical body, and the ancient god-devil body of the ancient race had an absolute defense against all kinds of energy. Although the destructive power of the destruction ruler could still be effective against the ancient god-fiend body, it was still not enough to destroy the ancient god-fiend body. But the Heaven Lord also had a samsara immortal body. The combination of the two made it seem like the Heaven Lord was completely unaffected. Haha, samsara is the first. Which one of you will be the second? The Heaven Lord heartily laughed. The ability of the samsara god, combined with the ancient god-devil body, allowed it to transcend logic and become an invincible power. Even the all-destroying chief sovereign of destruction was unable to completely destroy it. You killed the samsara sovereign? The chief sovereign of death's face was cold. Did you really think that I was so heavily injured that my cultivation level had fallen? The Heaven Lord couldn't help but laugh. There was some sort of trick behind those two explosions. The chief sovereign's eyes suddenly flickered as he thought of something. In the situation at the time, the Heaven Lord truly had no other choice but to detonate the ancestral artifact and then the divine kingdom. But now that he thought about it, the Heaven Lord had probably predicted that even the detonation of the ancestral artifact would find it difficult to kill 6 god eyes. If the ancestral artifact and the divine kingdom detonated together, they might have been able to kill 1 or 2 god eyes and inflict even greater injuries on the other god eye deities. But the Heaven Lord had separated the two explosions. In order to deceive you, 6 god eyes, I wasted an ancestral artifact, the resources of the Heaven's legacy race accumulated over countless years, and a substitute expert fused with the ancient race bloodline. But it was all worth it. The Heaven Lord faintly chuckled. Perhaps one god I could not compare to an ancestral artifact, the heaven-defying faction divine kingdom, and the ancient race bloodline. But the god eye origin was far more valuable to the Heaven Lord than anything else. BZC. The eye at the center of the Heaven Lord's forehead opened, its 8 pupils slowly turning. At the same time, 8 illusory eye bloodline images appeared behind the Heaven Lord. What was different from before was that the 8 eye bloodline figures started to move closer together, and the blurry outline of another eye appeared in the center. When Death and Destruction saw the image of that eye, their god eyes instantly felt a sense of familiarity and dread. The heavenly Tao god I exuded the desolate ancestral energy that reigned supreme over all things. The world once more trembled, as if prostrating before the Heaven Lord's feet. This is the energy of an ancestral eye. The two god eye deities immediately thought of the same thing. Die. The Heaven Lord's body blurred as he charged at the destruction god. With his current strength, he didn't need to fear the attacks of two god eye deities. As long as he killed one of them and stole their god eye origin, the other would be even easier to deal with. At that point, almost no one would be able to stop him. The Heaven Lord descended with a peerless pressure. The destruction god trembled, his destruction god eye throbbing. Great destruction art. The destruction god clenched his teeth and began to form a spell. Buzz. BZZZ. The destruction god I madly surged with destruction origin energy. Within the eyes of the chief sovereign of destruction, a source of destruction rapidly condensed. It was like a golden sun, abnormally dazzling. Go! The destruction god called out, and the origin of destruction shot forward. Reversal. The Heaven Lord used his heavenly Tao god I to alter the laws of the world. The golden sun immediately changed directions and flew toward the destruction god. This move is useless against me. The destruction god's face turned grave. He was extremely familiar with this move of the Heaven Lord's, so he had long since prepared for it. His destruction god, I had been controlling the golden sun this entire time, and it immediately changed directions. Oh, it seems like god eye deities aren't fools. The Heaven Lord chuckled. The two god eye deities instantly frowned. The death god immediately took action, unleashing a vast amount of black death mist that shot toward the Heaven Lord. They needed to work together to deal with this Heaven Lord. Ancient Divine Fist. The Heaven Lord activated his ancient race bloodline and unleashed a massive gold-and-silver fist. At the same time, the heavenly Tao god I activated, strengthening the gold-and-silver fist with the power of various laws. Boom! Bang! The primordial divine fist collided with the destruction god's art of great destruction, and the destructive storm instantly exploded. A deafening explosion took place between the heavens and earth, shaking the surroundings. Whoosh! The destruction god's body charged out of the destructive storm, his figure rather ragged. Destruction god, you truly don't live up to your name. The Heaven Lord heartily laughed. The destruction god clenched his teeth, his heart seething with rage. Even though he was the destruction god, he had not managed to gain the slightest advantage in his direct clash with the Heaven Lord. In fact, he seemed to be at a slight disadvantage. On the other side, the death god was intimidated. In terms of destructive power, the destruction god was number one among the 8 great god eyes. No one dared to directly clash with him, but the Heaven Lord had done it. Destruction, let's work together. The death god transformed into a black streak of light and appeared at the destruction god's side. When death and destruction worked together, they were definitely the strongest offensive combination in the ancient desolate realm of gods. Not even the divine punishment, space-time, and life god, deities dared to be careless. Death and decay. The death god focused his eyes on the Heaven Lord's body, and the energy of a death god descended. The Heaven Lord's ancient god-devil body dimmed a little. The death law, which could cause anything to move toward destruction, seemed to have some effect on the Heaven Lord's ancient god-devil body. The Heaven Lord's strength was also affected by the death law and gradually weakened. Death was not just a method to kill. It could also be used to weaken and restrain. Okay, restrain him. The destruction god coldly snorted. Booish. The destruction god activated his destruction god, and unleashed 2 more beams of destruction energy. The restrained and weakened Heaven Lord was no longer as powerful in a direct confrontation. Although the Heavenly Lord's grievous injuries were feigned, in reality, he was still injured and not at his peak state. Don't get carried away. The Heaven Lord angrily roared. Primal energy erupted from the heavenly Tao God Eye, destroying all laws and order in a radius of tens of thousands of li boom. Bang! The death god's weakening was lifted, and the destruction god was caught off guard, a trickle of blood trickling down the corner of his lips. Retreat! The two god-eye deities made up their minds. The Heaven Lord's strength was far too tyrannical. Even when working together, the two of them were no match. This was not the time to let their emotions affect their decisions. As gods, they had to yield and retreat. Dying, the Heaven Lord immediately pursued. He could not miss out on such a good chance. If he allowed them to escape and recover to their peak state, the two god-eye deities would definitely be on guard, making it much more difficult to kill them. Many experts had gathered in the northern region of the ancient desolate realm of gods. The news of this battle spread like wildfire in an instant. The Heaven Lord's injuries had been faked. The Samsara god Eye of the 8 great god Eyes had died, and the destruction god Eye and death god I had worked together to defeat and pursue the Heaven Lord. At this moment, the divine punishment, life, and space-time gods of the northern region were doing their utmost to search for the Heaven Lord. We can't let the Heaven Lord succeed. Space-time, you're the fastest. Hurry and get over there. The life and divine punishment gods felt their hearts sink. Once the Heaven Lord killed the two god-eye deities, no one would be able to stop him. For a moment, the entire ancient desolate realm of gods was thrown into turmoil. All the top-class experts began to gather in the north. Chapter 1554. In the northern region of the ancient desolate realm of gods. Whoosh, whoosh, 2 beams of light, one black and one gold, flew through the air, reducing everything around them to dust. Run! The death god was unprecedentedly nervous. At any other time, no one would have believed that a mighty god-eye deity would show such an expression. Boom! Behind them, a gold and silver beam of light cut through the world, exuding a peerless pressure that forced all things in its path to submit. Useless struggle. The Heaven Lord coldly snorted as he punched. A terrifying force condensed and was released, crushing forward. The Death God and Destruction God immediately used their God Eyes, using death and destruction energy to block the Heaven Lord's attack. Boom! Bang! A destructive explosion swept through the area. The two God-eye deities fled once more. Too powerful. The Destruction God was ghastly pale. He had suffered one of the Heaven Lord's attacks in his battle with the Heaven Lord, aggravating his injuries. In the pursuit, the Heaven Lord was unstoppable. The two of them fought with all their might, but they were only able to protect themselves, and their injuries only worsened. The Destruction God was gradually losing ground. After all, he was only invincible in terms of destructive power. Speed and defense were his weaknesses. The two of them hoped that other experts would come to their aid as they fled. However, experts below the god level were powerless against the Heaven Lord. Any expert that came within the Heaven Lord's line of sight was easily obliterated. There was one time when 2 god kings came to their aid, but in the face of the Heaven Lord's overwhelming power, one died and one fled. The god king that escaped was only because the Heaven Lord's target was the 2 god-eye deities. Space-time, divine punishment, life. The Heaven Lord's heavenly Tao God. I suddenly sensed these 3 god eyes. Against 2 god eyes, he had the absolute advantage and was unstoppable. But the 5 god eyes made things rather difficult. After all, the Heaven Lord was not at his peak, so he could not be careless. Reversal. The Heaven Lord immediately used his heavenly Tao God, Eye, to invert the world. In a flash, the Death God and Destruction God changed directions. With this, the group changed directions, putting even more distance between them and the 3 god eyes. As the world was inverted, the Heaven Lord punched. Boom! Boom! 2 beams of golden and silver light pierced through the sky at lightning speed. However, the 2 gods were no pushovers. The moment the Heaven Lord overturned the world, they immediately reacted and fled in the opposite direction. After all, they had seen this move many times, and this matter concerned their lives. So how could they be careless? But they still found it difficult to dodge the Heaven Lord attack. Boom! The two of them circulated their god eyes, unleashing the power of destruction and death to resist. But the Heaven Lord's attacks were relentless. Wind, lightning, and fire wreak havoc in this dimension. Go! The two god-eye deities paid the price of being injured to escape the Heaven Lord's attack and flee once more. Gravity. The Heaven Lord activated his heavenly Tao God Eye, exerting supreme gravity on the world. Everything in the space sank. Break. The Destruction God activated his Destruction God Eye, unleashing a layer of destruction divine light that shattered the gravitational metal around him. Shio! Shio! The two god-eye deities continued to flee, the Heaven Lord in hot pursuit. The Heaven Lord's attacks continued without pause. If the two god-eye deities focused on defense, they would lose speed. If they wanted to escape, they could only ignore defense. Thus, they were bound to be injured by the Heaven Lord's attacks. In addition, this was also a drain on their god-eye energy. If this continues, the two of us, the Death God's heart sank. As the Death God, he had never been pursued before and was never in such a desperate situation. He also knew that the Heaven Lord's heavenly Tao God, I possessed incredible perception and vision. Every time he overturned the world, he would take them far away from the reinforcements of other experts. But they could only follow the path the Heaven Lord had given them. There's still hope. The Destruction Sovereign let out a gasp. His golden gaze was somewhat dim. The Heaven Lord's reappearance had alarmed the entire ancient, desolate realm of gods. More and more experts were gathering. When the time came, experts would come from all directions. Even if the Heaven Lord overturned the world, it would be useless. You have no hope. The Heaven Lord grunted. He was well aware of his situation, so he needed to kill the Destruction God as quickly as possible. Bang! The world was torn apart as two bolts of lightning and fire shot toward the two god-eye deities. Death light, destruction divine light. The two gods were forced to use their god eyes to defend against the Heaven Lord's attack. Boom! Bang! Crash! In this clash, the injuries of the two god-eye deities worsened. But at this moment, the two gods realized that the world had become much brighter and warmer. In the distance, a golden sun seemed to slowly rise. Bright sun god, the two god-eye deities seemed to see their savior and were extremely excited. I said before that you have no hope. The Heaven Lord coldly snorted, his icy voice coming from behind them. Two black dots suddenly appeared in front of them. Two enormous black gold warships were rapidly approaching. Your Excellency, I've kept you waiting. The left protector and right protector on the two warships called out in unison. No, how could this be? The Death God and Destruction God blurted out in alarm. As it turned out, the Heaven Lord had already planned everything. The remnants of the heaven-defying faction were already on their way. Activate the destruction weapons. The two protectors ordered. The great destruction weapons on the two black gold warships were ready to be activated at any moment. Kaboom! Two incomparably vast, white, crystalline beams of light shot out from the black gold warship. At the same time, the Heaven Lord used his heavenly Tao God to control lightning and fire to fill up the area that the great destruction weapons could not reach. Every inch of the world was brimming with destruction energy. The two god-eye deities had nowhere to hide. Gravity. The Heaven Lord's eye flashed with a savage light. In the space filled with destructive storms, a gravity as heavy as a mountain suddenly descended. Plush! The destruction god's body trembled, and then he bent over and vomited blood. Destruction. The death god's mind trembled. He knew that the Heaven Lord planned to kill destruction first and then him. Although he didn't have a very good relationship with the destruction god, the three of them were still on the same side and had been friends for countless years. The death god was also in a terrible mood as he watched destruction about to be killed and his god, origin taken away. But he could not save the destruction god, so he could only use this chance to escape. Ilish. The death god's body exuded a powerful death god energy that caused everything in the world to weaken and perish. Then, he took the opportunity to escape to the other side. I'll be taking the second god, I. The Heaven Lord ignored the death god and condensed his bloodline. With the buff of the heavenly Tao god, I, he unleashed a powerful attack. At the same time, the heaven-defying faction once more locked onto the destruction god. Boom! Bang! At this moment, the destruction god's body exploded with a dreadful energy that could annihilate all. Self-detonate. The heaven-defying faction members on the Black Gold warships were all terrified. The self-detonation of a god, and one with the strongest destructive power, the destruction god, meant that they were doomed. Samsara bind. The Heaven Lord immediately activated his heavenly Tao god I. The unique energy of the samsara bind and destruction energy mutually countered each other. When facing the samsara god's samsara bind, the Heaven Lord could only use the heavenly Tao god I's killing move to undo it. Hissus. The eye on the Heaven Lord's forehead exuded a gloomy mist that seemed to come from the samsara hell. The gloomy mist surrounded the explosion and engulfed it. Broom. Two terrifying energies clashed and battled. In the end, the gloomy mist was washed away by golden light, and the entire world was bathed in a golden light that could destroy all. The second is dead. Now it's the third. In a world of golden light, the Heaven Lord grunted and immediately moved out. The destruction god's self-detonation had been weakened by the samsara bind, and no longer possessed that terrifying power. It posed no threat to the ancient god-devil body and samsara immortal body at all. Ilish. In a flash of light, the Heaven Lord pursued. I can't resist. The death god's mind trembled. He knew that the destruction god knew that he couldn't escape and was using his self-detonation to buy him a chance to escape. But the Heaven Lord was far too powerful, even surpassing the god level. Suddenly, stop. An ethereal voice seemed to come from an endless distance. Space fiercely rippled as a white-haired elder descended in a flash of silver light. Space-time. The death god's eyes flashed. One dead, the space-time god had an extremely grim expression. He was still one step too late. At the same time, a scorching golden-red light shone down. A shrill and excited cry resounded through the world. A moment later, a man appeared, golden red wings wrapped around his body and exuding boundless heat and light. Heh, Death God I, I'll take your life next time. The Heaven Lord calmly glanced at the space-time god and bright sun god. It wasn't that he was afraid of these two, but that he was not at his peak. Killing the samsara god and pursuing the destruction god and death god had consumed a great deal of his energy. He had also used the heavenly Tao God Eye's abilities far too often. Want to leave? The space-time god's eyes focused, cold light flashing through them. Suddenly, kaboom! Heaven and earth shook, and the power of the annihilation sovereign surged through the fan universe. Golden specks of light began to gather toward the eye at the center of the Heaven Lord's forehead. The destruction god Eye's power. The Heaven Lord spread, opened his arms, and opened his heavenly Tao God Eye to receive this destruction origin energy. Behind him, the 8 great god eyes grew even more focused and even closer. The outline of the mysterious eye in the center also became somewhat clearer. A desolate ancestor energy that reigned supreme over all began to spread out, causing all things to submit and the laws of the world to tremble. At this moment, everyone inexplicably trembled and felt themselves to be incredibly insignificant. Far in the distance, a youth dressed in a crystalline robe appeared. This was none other than Zhao Feng. Upon returning to the life-sacred land, he learned of the Heaven Lord's movements, but by the time he reached the north, it would already be too late. Thus, he borrowed the memories of other experts and used thought teleportation to arrive. The energy of the ancestral eye. Zhao Feng's mind trembled. After killing a second god-eye deity, the Heaven Lord's heavenly Tao God, I had taken another step toward evolving into the heavenly Tao ancestral I. Thump, 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 thump. Within the origin dimension, the dreamy silver ball throbbed, pouring out large amounts of dream origin energy. Hiss! Feeling a piercing pain, Zhao Feng couldn't help but cover his left eye. He sensed that the dreamy silver ball contained an even more powerful energy that wanted to break through its shackles. Chapter 1555. In the void, the Heaven Lord spread open his arms and accepted the destruction God power descending from the fan universe. The aura emanating from the eye on his forehead grew more and more intense, shaking the wildlands and causing all living things to acknowledge allegiance. The natural order in the area trembled, as if the Lord of Heaven were above all things. Everyone present, including death, space-time, and the bright sun hegemon, felt their hearts tremble for some reason. Everyone suddenly felt that they had become incomparably small. The space-time hegemon, who had just been preparing to attack, couldn't help but pause. The heavenly Tao God, I was the bane of any of the 8 great God eyes, and the Heaven Lord had become even stronger, so strong that the space-time God did not even have the courage to attack. After absorbing the destruction God's power, the world-shaking energy began to recede into the Heaven Lord's body. 8 great God eyes, you only have a few more days to live. The Heaven Lord chuckled and shot off into the distance. In the distance, the members of the heaven-defying faction had the protection of their warships, so their losses were not severe. Go! The Heaven Lord led the members of the heaven-defying faction away. Before long, 2 powerful auras descended. They were the Life Sovereign and the Heavenly Punishment Sovereign. Looking at the situation, they had already roughly guessed the situation. The Heaven Lord is too dangerous. The space-time God, I slightly lowered his head, forced to admit this. We must eradicate it as soon as possible. The divine punishment hegemon's face was solemn and dignified. I'm afraid the few of us are not his match. The Life Sovereign immediately said. When the death and destruction gods worked together, the Heaven Lord was still able to kill one of them. If the space-time God and the bright sun God hadn't arrived in time, the death god probably wouldn't have survived either. And now that the Heaven Lord had obtained a second God Eye origin, he was even stronger. Not even the 4 God Eye deities working together would be able to do anything to him. If they fell for another of the Heaven Lord's schemes and lost a God Eye, they would truly be finished. As such, he needed to recover from his injuries as soon as possible, gather the strength of the ancient desolate realm of gods, and discuss countermeasures. At this moment, Wang Hu, on the other side, Zhao Feng's left, I released a large amount of dream origin energy, causing the entire world to tremble in dreamy colors. This is... The bright sun sovereign stared at the distant Zhao Feng with a stunned look on his face. The 9th God Eye, the Life Sovereign, looked over as well. His God eyes getting stronger and stronger. The divine punishment God stared at Zhao Feng's left eye in shock. From Zhao Feng's body, he felt an incomparably powerful force, which was good news for the current situation. The power of the God I was indispensable to fighting against the Heaven Lord. It might be the stimulation of the heavenly Tao God Eye. The chief sovereign of death murmured. The 8 great God Eyes all responded to the Heaven Lord's heavenly Tao God Eye. Zhao Feng had not been able to use the full power of the 9th God Eye before, but now that he was stimulated by the heavenly Tao God Eye, he should be even stronger. At this moment, the Death God was no longer interested in Zhao Feng's 9th God Eye. Right now, dealing with the Heaven Lord was the most important task. There was no longer any hostility between God Eyes. He actually hoped that Zhao Feng could reach the same level as them, so that he could be of some use against the Heaven Lord. Retreat. The space-time hegemon let out a sigh. Everyone, why don't you come to my life, sacred land? The Life God Eye extended an invitation. Although the Heaven Lord had retreated, no one knew if this was part of his plan or not. Thus, it was best for the four great god eyes to stay together lest the heaven lord take advantage of this opening. Moreover, the life god could heal the injuries of the other god eyes and help them recover to their peak condition as quickly as possible. Life, you don't mind me, right? The death god gave a mocking smile. We must eliminate the heaven lord as quickly as possible. Let's discuss our plan in the life god's sacred land. The bright sun god proposed. Okay, the life god agreed. Just like that, the gods returned to the life sacred land, and Zhao Feng followed them on their return journey. The news of the deaths of the samsara god, I, and destruction god, I quickly spread throughout the ancient desolate realm of gods, shocking everyone. In their minds, gods had always been the supreme experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods, undying and indestructible. No one had ever imagined that two of the 8 great god eyes deities would die one after another. Once the gods returned to the life sacred land, they issued a summons to all the experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods to discuss countermeasures. The life sacred land began to rebuild after the war. As for the god-eye deities, they entered seclusion. The explosions of the ancestral artifact and the heaven-defying faction Divine Kingdom had damaged their foundations and could not be healed so quickly. They needed the life god's power. 4 figures sat cross-legged in a secret chamber brimming with pure vitality. They were none other than the 4 god-eye deities. I didn't think that one of the 8 great god eyes would die. The death god sighed. Although he was the death god, he had almost died to the heaven lord. Don't think too much about it. If we can recover before the heaven lord does, we'll be able to catch him off guard. The life god softly said. During the healing process, the life god realized that the 4 god eyes had a certain connection that allowed them to heal far more effectively than she had imagined. In this way, they might be able to recover before the heaven lord did. The divine punishment god softly replied. In a certain palace in the life sacred land. Brother Feng, if the heaven lord really fuses with the heavenly Tao ancestral eye, do you think the world will vanish like a dream, just as the legends say? Zhao Yufei lay on Zhao Feng's chest, a serene expression on her face. It won't. Zhao Feng hesitated for a few moments before saying. But in truth, this was not what he was thinking. Based on what Zhao Feng knew, the heaven-defying faction's goal was to leave this world. The heaven lord was fusing with the heavenly Tao ancestral eye to achieve this goal. Thus, this legend was very likely to be true. In the end, the heaven lord is just one person. The god-eye deities will eliminate him and put a stop to all this. Zhao Feng gently stroked Zhao Yufei's soft hair. Brother Feng. Zhao Yufei looked worriedly at Zhao Feng. She had once been happy that Zhao Feng had the 9th god eye, as Zhao Feng was certain to become an expert. But now, as the 9th god eye, Zhao Feng was also the heaven lord's target and needed to participate in the battle against the heaven lord. Zhao Feng clenched his fists. The heaven lord had to be eliminated, or else who knew what would happen to the ancient desolate realm of gods. Time slowly passed. The heaven-defying faction and the heaven lord seemed to evaporate into thin air, with no news coming from them. The ancient desolate realm of gods gradually regained its peace. Summoned by the life sacred land's 4 god-eye deities and the bright sun god, many experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods began to gather. One of the 8 great god eyes, the myriad forms god eye that had always remained neutral, arrived at the life sacred land 1 year later. 5 years quickly passed. The 4 god-eye deities used this time to recover from their injuries, leaving everything to the myriad forms god I and the bright sun god. During this time, Zhao Feng also did not rest, rushing around. Zhao Feng did not know if the heaven lord was still watching him. Not even god-eye deities could contend against the heaven lord. If his 9th god, I was also in the heaven lord's hunting range, then Zhao Feng was in far too much danger. Even though he had the dream god eye, it was still insignificant to the heaven lord, someone who could be easily crushed. Thus, Zhao Feng continued to rush around, gathering space ancestral artifact fragments. Once he obtained all the space ancestral artifact fragments, Heaven Ascendant would automatically absorb them and form a complete ancestral artifact. If he had a complete defensive ancestral artifact, he would have a powerful life-saving trump card. In the war with the heaven-defying faction, Zhao Feng had obtained many spoils of war, including many ancestral artifact fragments. He had used these ancestral artifact fragments and other benefits to exchange for space ancestral artifact fragments from other experts of the ancient desolate realm of gods. In these 5 years, Zhao Feng had obtained 2 fragments and discovered one himself. I'm back here again. One day, Zhao Feng returned to the Gulong Zone. Based on the reports he had obtained, the Gulong Zone's heaven-devouring sacred lands god King Swallow Devour had a space ancestral artifact fragment. The heaven-devouring sacred land floated in the air above a holy land in the Gulong Zone. The moment Zhao Feng arrived, he alarmed the experts of the heaven-devouring sacred land. Who has come? An elderly and dignified voice came from within the heaven-devouring sacred land's domain. Zhao Feng calmly said. A few moments later, an opening appeared in the domain, and a white-haired elder slowly stepped out. Strange and ancient black runes had been carved into his cheeks. I didn't think that it would be the 9th god, Zhao Feng, paying a visit. Please forgive me for not coming out to greet you. The elder immediately welcomed Zhao Feng in. Zhao Feng's deeds had long ago spread. It should have been a major event that would have shaken the ancient desolate realm, but had been overshadowed by the Heaven Lord. Even so, no one in the ancient desolate realm of gods dared to underestimate Zhao Feng. At the very least, all those who had once coveted the 9th god, I had given up on the idea. Under the elder's guidance, Zhao Feng arrived at the main hall of the heaven-devouring sacred land. Before he even entered the hall, he heard a resounding voice. For what matter has the 9th god? I personally come to pay a visit. Upon entering the hall, Zhao Feng saw a tall and brawny man seated at the head of the hall. The life-sacred land's 4 god deities have issued a summons to discuss a plan to resist the Heaven Lord. Why hasn't God King Swallow Devour moved out yet? Zhao Feng was rather surprised. This matter was caused by the 8 great god eyes. I am confident that the god eye deities can deal with it. God King Swallow Devour laughed. In his view, the Heaven Lord's goal was only the god eyes and had little to do with them. Besides the 2 fallen god eye deities, weren't there still 6 god eyes? That should be enough to deal with the Heaven Lord. God King Swallow Devour was not the only one with this idea. Zhao Feng had encountered several other god kings in his search for the ancestral artifact fragment. But you didn't come this time to persuade me to join the resistance against the Heaven Lord, did you? God King Swallow Devour asked. Seeing that God King Swallow Devour was so direct, Zhao Feng dropped the pleasantries and got straight to the point. I heard that God King Swallow Devour has a space ancestral artifact fragment. Is this true? Oh, you're interested in my space ancestral artifact fragment? God King Swallow Devour narrowed his eyes. In truth, he had long ago heard that Zhao Feng was searching for a space ancestral artifact fragment, apparently, so that he could fuse it into a complete ancestral artifact. This was precisely why God King Swallow Devour had intentionally leaked this information. God King Swallow Devour, what are your conditions? Zhao Feng faintly smiled. He was confident that God King Swallow Devour knew his goal. Zhao Feng, you're collecting space ancestral artifact fragments to fight against the Heaven Lord, right? If you're willing to exchange your space pseudo-ancestral artifact fragment with me, I, God King Swallow Devour, will join the resistance against the Heaven Lord. God King Swallow Devour urgently declared with a righteous expression. Zhao Feng's eyes glimmered. It turned out that God King Swallow Devour was also interested in the pseudo-ancestral artifact. Moreover, you can't use the full power of your god eye. I'll be more useful in the war against the Heaven Lord in your place. God King Swallow Devour spoke once more, exuding a dreadful pressure. The heaven-devouring sacred land was ranked in the middle of the 18 sacred lands of the ancient desolate realm of gods, and God King Swallow Devour himself had the strength of a top-class God King. If God King Swallow Devour had the complete ancestral artifact, he would be able to use the power of a god. Even if it was just a space pseudo-ancestral artifact, God King Swallow Devour's strength would be greatly boosted, allowing him to approach the god level. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.